Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 United We Row Summit. I'm Jenny Trey's Community Engagement Officer here at US Rowing. First, huge thank you to all of you for showing up. For those of you in other sports, I'm sure teamwork is important, but in rowing, we really learn to rely on our teammates. And at US Rowing, we know that in order to make our sport more welcoming and inclusive and accessible, it takes all of us, especially when it seems like it's kind of the most challenging time to do all of this type of work. So, thank you for dedicating the time and for being here. And before we go any further, I want to thank the team for all their work on this event. Will Bott, Director of United We Row Programs, and Jess Jackson, United We Row and Community Impact Associate. They've really lived and breathed this event over the last few months. And it's all coming together today. So thank you, Will and Jess. And Amanda Kraus, CEO of US Rowing, for being here and always supporting these inclusion efforts and knowing that inclusion is not just for marketing or branding purposes, but it
Hi,
really
John. This is Flo.
can lead to higher quality, more speed, better outcomes for programs for US Rowing. So thank you. So my role here at US Rowing encompasses all of our United We Row programs and our inclusion efforts, membership, so thinking about member retention and growth of our sport and learning and development of members and of ourselves. And they all really seem to come together at this event, all three of those facets, United We Row, learning and development, and membership. Um, so the vision behind United We Row Summit was to bring people together, focus primarily on inclusion, and bring in incredibly talented people to lead discussions and to make it free and accessible outside of membership to other sports, and hopefully we can do a lot of learning from each other. As you may know, this is the second year of the summit, and the theme is next level. So the idea is to really to not settle. We think about it as still being in the first 500 of this inclusion work. And sometimes we don't even know where the finish line is. We think we're closer, and something comes up, and we're back to the starting sequence of the race. Or sometimes it feels like they're even moving the finish line. So we feel we need to unite and take it to the next level, and we can't do that without all of you. We're excited of what we've been able to do through United We Row over the last 3.5 years. We've been able to give away close to $1 million in scholarships, discounted memberships, and grants. We've told countless stories that weren't previously told before. We've hosted events that are for people who haven't had events specifically for them in rowing. And we've started to move the needle on how people feel in rowing per our belonging survey that we did last year, which we can drop in the chat. But we're going to the next level too, and we continue to learn and grow. And as we enter the fifth year of our inclusion strategic plan, we're more committed to this work than ever. So just really grateful for all of you to be here, for being here. And we're looking forward to learning with you and from you. So thanks again. And I'm turning it back over to Will Bott to get things started.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you, Jenny, for kicking us off today. I'm excited to get to our speakers. I do have a few logistical things to share and to go over. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and share my screen. Um, we're not gonna do a ton of screen sharing. We really want this summit to feel very personal and where you're able to interact with speakers and with us. But there are a few kind of key things here that I just want to make sure we go over. So, um, can everyone see my screen?
Yes. There's a little pop-up window. There you go.
Okay, cool. All right, so just as Jenny said, all of the sessions are being recorded. Next week, we will have the links on YouTube. That said, we want you here for these 2 days. I know that it's 2 days that are 4 hours each, but to have you all on the Zoom, kind of in the room with us, is really valuable and important. So, um, but yes, the links will be on YouTube next week. For coaches who are earning coaching education credits, you will be able to earn them for each full day that you attend. Um, so know that you're able to earn CECs here. Um, please use the chat. Jess Jackson is going to be monitoring the chat, and the goal with the goal really is to have side conversations in the chat, asking questions, pulling things up, and communicating with one another. So even when speakers even when folks are speaking, please feel free to be actively engaged in the chat. We have a couple folks from the US Rowing staff who will be interacting with you all as well. So if there are any questions or thoughts, please put them there. Um, as I said, we want the summit to be really interactive, and so at the end of each session, we'll have probably 8 to 10 minutes of Q&A, kind of depending on the sessions. Um, and so again, get your questions ready, and we'll be able to have those be answered. Along the way, as Jenny mentioned, we've done a ton of work to make our sport more accessible, more inclusive, and we have many resources that we feel can really benefit those efforts, and really the efforts that you all are leading. So. Throughout the event, I'm going to highlight opportunities for you all to receive funding, coaching development. I'll point you in the direction of our online learning platforms where we offer a ton of different material and curricula for you all to utilize. So again, I'll point these out throughout the day. Um, this is a really exciting one. So we are working with a company to print out large boathouse wall posters. And if you all registered on the Zoom, you'll see on the registration the top part, and it says a seat in the boat for everyone. We will be sending you all, the folks who are on the 2 day attendee list, a poster for your boathouse. And yeah, it was designed by our team, and we're really excited to see that up in boathouses across the country. Um, the last thing that I'll say on the logistics side, please, if you can keep your cameras on, it is so much more engaging for speakers to speak to people than to, just the name. So if you're able and willing to keep your camera on, that would be great. And also, please stay on mute. So, there are times where you don't necessarily realize you're off mute, but if you can just do your best to stay on mute, that would be great. In order to keep track of time, Jess will be the one taking the questions and kind of cultivating them for the Q&A at the end. Jenny, is there anything to add on the logistics piece?
I don't think so. Ready to jump
Okay.
in. Thanks,
All right,
Will.
cool. Then I do want to do a quick overview of what is in store for today. I am so honored to be able to be part of this the summit because we have really incredible, experienced, passionate people who are joining us. So our keynote for today is Kwabena Nixon. So his keynote is called "Before You Can Serve Me, You Must See Me: Creating Safe Spaces Through Sport." Then we have a panel who I'll introduce in a little while about getting a new program up and running off the ground, basically going from 0 to 1. We'll have a 15-minute break halfway through. Then we'll have a panel discussion about expanding access through adaptive sport. And then finishing up with Girls in Sport, Equity, Access, and Agency from the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport. So, um, this is what we have in store for us today. I am so excited to hear from them myself, and hope that you all feel the same way. So, to kick off our summit, I'm going to pass the mic over to Amanda Kraus to say a few words, our CEO. and then to introduce our first speaker, Kwabena Nixon. So Amanda, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Will, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're not on the East Coast. It's so good to see you all, and I want to give a quick shout out to our team, to Jess and Jenny and Will, who've really been working so hard behind the scenes to put this together. And I was reflecting on the fact that we're doing this summit and reached out to some other sports. I see fencing in here and badminton. I think there are a couple others too, which I think is really fun. So thank you for joining us. And you know, we've all sort of in this country seen a decline, right? There's just probably an understatement in engagement on this front of um, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I said it. And really pushing away from these efforts. And I just want to say from my viewpoint, due to that, I think it's more important than ever to do this work and to double down on the efforts. And I'm probably preaching to the choir with this audience, but I wanted to be on record as now is not the time to be quiet. Now is the time to really point up that the work is more important than ever in this country. And that includes in our sport. So really thrilled that you're all here and really happy that Will gave me the opportunity to welcome you all to the summit. And I will be passing this on to Kwabena Nixon, who is, I'm really excited to hear from you, Kwabena. And, you know, what Will gave me a good rundown on you and your work, and it just really resonated with me when we think about boathouses and wanting people to feel welcome in them. And it's something as simple as, hello and using people's names and because it can be really intimidating for people of all ages to walk into a boathouse when they're new to the sport. And it can be something as simple as feeling like somebody sees you and somebody took the moment to say good morning. And we're gonna hear that from you, Kwabena, and just very much looking forward to that. My one really important job here is to make sure people know who you are, a nationally respected author, educator, and spoken word artist. Your voice has shaped conversation about belonging and dignity across the country. And you come to us today with a message titled, "Before you can serve me, you must see me," which is definitely a powerful reminder for all of us in this sport that before we coach or we teach or we lead or any sport really, we must first understand the human being who is sitting in front of us, their culture, their identity, and their story. So please join me in welcoming a remarkable advocate for creating spaces where every athlete can thrive. And I'm going to turn this over to you and let you take it from here. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I hope can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Good. All right, thumbs up. I usually ask everybody to clap, but I can't see if everybody's okay. There we go. All right. Cool. Thank you. First off, I thank you so much for having me. Will, I just got to do a shameless plug. Will and I go, oh, I love this. It's like we on social media. I'm getting likes, thumbs, fists, love. All right. Put the Cash App in there too. Not yet. Not yet. All right. But Will and I go back some time, and I am so glad how we reconnected. So I'll acknowledge everyone, but I just want to do this real quick with Will. I met Will working in a school, 53rd Street School. I was working with a group of young Black males and Asian males, am I correct? And Will was the assistant, right? And usually when we close the doors, it's just me and the students. But I saw the connection with Will was so authentic and so real that even other staff, I said, nah, we'll just keep Will in here. He was so committed and connected to these young people that even I stepped back and I had to nod my head and say, this is what it's like when someone sees and acknowledges and believes and belongs. And Will, I would say, what's up, brother, to Will every time I seen it, because I needed him to understand that. So family, I am so excited to be here. I don't know what part of the country you're in, but wherever you are, I just want to say this. If you are glad you woke up this morning, clap your hands, give me some thumbs so I know you here. Listen, Amanda said it best. She said the word. This is not a time to be quiet, and I'm not a quiet speaker. So if you are looking for someone who's going to give you the 5 points of changing lives, the 10 points, it's not that type of thing. I do a combat sport. Just like you're rowing, you got to put the paddle in the water to go forward. So when I throw something out, you throw it back. I want questions. I want comments. Don't ever bring him back again if necessary, whichever one you do, I'm okay with. So Amanda, thank you for that introduction. I so appreciate you. Jess, all of you, Will, thank you. So I'll get right to it out the door. I want everybody real quick, as we start this session today, do me a favor. I don't do anything without some acknowledgement. My good friend, I'm a black boy from the west side of Chicago. Once upon a time, I was a basketball player. I'm not going to go into if I was good or bad. I'm just going to say I was a basketball player. All right, you pick whichever one. I grew up watching basketball, played baseball, football, everything. I carry a lot of people with me when I speak. I'm 55. I buried a lot of my friends over the years, some through the lifestyle I grew up on the west side in, and others because we're getting older. Today, I want to dedicate my session to a good friend of mine. This is Alonzo Archie. If you can see it, was a great basketball player, Alonzo Archie. If you can type his name in there, Alonzo Archie. He was shot and killed over a basketball game, a regular game. He was playing ball. He won. And the guys where we were did not like the fact that he won. He didn't taunt them or any of that. He just happened to win the game. And in the area we were in the neighborhoods, we were in a different neighborhood. And by the time the game was over, he couldn't get back to his car in time, and the guy shot him. Zoe was a good guy. So today, since we're dealing with sports, I want to recognize him today. And here's what I ask you to do. If you can, first, if you can, just type his name in there, Alonzo, because I want people to know that we spoke on him. They say, as long as you say someone's name, they are never gone. And then you can also type in Zoe, Z-O-E, because that way somewhere they'll know. And I'm going to tell his daughter that today we talked about your dad. I'm going to make sure I get to the people. Thank you so much. Get emotional looking at that. Also, when I think of it, I wanted to put that on there. So now I ask you something before we speak. I just need everybody to give me one thing that they're grateful for today. Listen, we are in a crazy time, as Amanda said. There's so much going on. But if you woke up this morning, if you got out of bed unassisted, if you're listening to me, if you can visibly see me, if you can hear me, if you were able to taste something, if you were able to touch something, you saw your loved ones, you here. So whatever you're going through, whatever it is, you made it to this day. So what are you thankful for? Yes, I'm loving it. Our team, my kids, thank you. Thank you. Yes, fill that page up. Yes, please. Let me know at my husband. Yes, seeing and listening to you. Thank you. Yes, build this up. Why? Because thanks and gratitude go hand in hand, and we need all of that. Friendship, the here and now. Yes, grateful for my help. I'm grateful to be here. So with that being said, my name is Kwabena Antoine Nixon. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I'm working on my new book. It's called Dear Black Boy, Futures Not Funerals. That's the population I work with. That's what I'm dealing with right now. I do not apologize for that title because the population I'm working with needs that right now. Futures, not funerals. And I'm going on the tour throughout the country to share that message. Futures, not funerals. The money we spend on funerals, I want to spend on a future. I want to spend on sports. So when I do my sessions, we create safe spaces. What is a safe space? Where you are seen, where you are heard, there's no judgment, accountability, in a place where you say, this is where I belong. This is where I want to be. I do this all over the country. We have barbershop conversations. And when I go in there with young men, they're very hesitant. I'm not coming in there. I don't want to be in there. And I understand where they come from. Some of them, when you say safe, they don't believe that there's a safe space based on where they've been in their life. So I have to find ways to say, okay, let's get in this room. Now, I'll tell you as I go how I do it. But right now, I want to show you why I do it. With me, I carry a bag. In that bag, is close to 60 something obituaries. Please don't take this as a shocker. It's not a shock scare tactic. I carry those with me on the days I don't feel like doing what I'm doing, on the days I want to quit. Has anybody ever had those days where they feel like, you know what, it's just not worth it? I'm doing all I can. If you can, please leave me a comment and let me know. Think about, and not just in your work, but in life, period. And I don't mean in a suicidal way, but I mean just like it's not working. I'm doing my part. I'm teaching. I'm helping. Thank you. I've been there. And you're doing your part, and it's like they're not getting the message. If you're an educator or you work with young people, you do a lot of investing into their heart and their time, and you go, why would you do that? And you got to pull it back, and you almost say, you know what? I just got to fold. They're not getting the message. And right when I do that, I go in my room and I pull these obituaries out, and I think about my friends who will never get a chance to do what I'm doing. My father is on that obituary. I lost my father when I was 11 years old to street violence. He was killed. That was 11 to 13 is a important time for a young man, but I had no conversation with him. So I had to find mentors throughout the place. I was looking for safe spaces and couldn't find them. Family, today I'll talk to you about creating a culture. I'll talk to you about building community. And I'll definitely talk to you about not how do you go recruit kids, but why we need them in part of programs, why they need to see something different, why they have to look at what you're offering as not just sports, but prevention, safety, a change, a way out. Yes, I said it, a way out, because for some of us, that's exactly what it is. It gets me off the neighborhood for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day out of my neighborhood saves my life. So I'll start somewhere. So when I work with young men, I work with students all over, and when I work with adults, but this is give you a context of the group that you may or may not be working with. And Mr. Will can attest to this. I sit them in a circle, and we're in the room, and I ask them, how many of you have ever lost a friend or family member to violence? And if you want to participate in this, please do. I asked them, how many of you in this room have ever lost a friend or family member to violence? I want you to picture about 40 to 50 young men of color, young women, or young students in the room. How many of you ever lost someone to violence? Almost 45 of them raised their hand. And now you can also participate. If you ever lost a friend or family to violence, please put your hand up. The next question I asked them is, how many of you have grew up in a house without your father? Mr. Will can attest this again. We're 30-something to 40 in the room. A good 25, am I right? About 30 of them raised their hand. Some are hesitant. Some look around the room because they don't want people to know their business. But I assure them again, hey, I'm raising my hand also. Then I ask another question. Raise your hand if you have no relationship or don't know your father. A good 5 or 6, depending on, will raise their hand. They're looking at me to see my cues because I'm raising my hand also. And they're looking around the room. But now the attention is on me, and now those walls are starting to break. Then I say, raise your hand if you have a family member locked up behind bars, incarcerated. They'll raise their hands. Then I say, how many of you, if it was your father? Hands will go up. How many was your mother? Hands will go up. How many had a parent, a friend, or family member struggle with drug or alcohol problems? They're not looking around the room anymore. They're boldly, proudly raising their hand. They're sitting at the edge of their seats now. They're directly eye contacted with me. A few tears are coming now because they can see it. And here's the beauty of it. Now they're kind of comforting each other. 3 minutes ago, they were arguing and fighting, but now there's an arm around somebody. Then I ask another question. How many of you feel like just giving up? Hands go up. Almost every hand goes up. And then finally, I ask the question, how many of you think nobody cares? Just about the whole room raises their hand. Nobody sees them. Nobody pays attention until they get in trouble. When we sit in that room, I say, everything is open now. And I ask them to think about their life. They're young. Some are 17, 18. What about my life? So let me show you what I mean when I say think about their life. Believe me, if you're listening and you're wondering, what does this tie in? I promise you, I'll show you. To create a safe space, we have to be open. The second thing, your story has to matter. Everybody's story matters. When I listened to you all talk, I was wondering, what's your story? Things happen because we don't know each other's stories. My friends on those obituaries, their story died that day, but I'm the one that tells it. Stories matter because stories help us. So here's the story. Imagine if this was your last day on earth, and I'm talking to everybody that's listening to me. I'm so glad Mr. Will asked everybody to have their camera on because I want you to hear, see, and feel. Imagine if this was your last day on earth. Please hear me out. Imagine if this was your last day on earth. Because a minister friend of mine say every day you wake up, you should look in the mirror and ask yourself, what's your life worth? And God forbid it should happen, but if you close the books on your life, meaning you never breathe again, what they gonna say about you? Not your friends, not your block, not your co-workers, but what the world gonna say about you? Because see, where I come from, they write their names on the wall. They put their faces on T-shirts. They build a shrine with teddy bears and alcohol. They play loud music. They stand in front of it, singing like they rapping like they singing. They smoke good, drink good. They put it on Facebook, RIP so-and-so, rest in heaven so-and-so. And they go to the funeral and they even holler, on God, gang, gang, we here with their cell phone. And then what happens? 3 days later, the shirt that they wore to the funeral, they take off and they put it under a mattress. The pants that match, they don't wear them anymore. The shrine that they built as a memorial for this young person, it has balloons that has no air, pictures that are ugly, alcohol on the ground. This is the last place the world is going to remember you. This is it. And then finally, they go wipe your name off the wall, and it's as blank as a white T-shirt. So while you pondering yours, I'll give you mine. Amongst you in this room, I'm speaking for friends who'll never see the sun again. Amongst you in this room, I'm speaking for little girls they tell, shh, don't tell what happened. Amongst you in this room, I'm speaking for my cousins who didn't duck fast enough when the bullets were coming. Amongst you in this room, I'm speaking for some of us who just won't see it again. Because believe me when I tell you, see, when my life is over, please remember when we were together. We were alone and I was doing this poem for you. If this be my last words, please listen to me. If this be my last words, please listen to me. If this be my last words, Jess, please listen to me. If this be my last words, Red, if this be my last words, said, listen to me and remember me. Celebrate me and venerate me with 1,000,000 chocolate children holding incense. Dress them in liberation blood red for Malcolm. Place black couffays on a natural head and make sure they stand barefooted in the green earth soil. You remember me. Next, I want you to take 143,999 white doves to the atmosphere and ask them to save a place for me. And please, who's ever to do my eulogy, please, no phony preachers and no PhD speakers, no twisted psychologists who confuse and judge my knowledge of the reed measuring sticks. No, I'd rather have flicks from an old school clique wearing gold all stars and cut off blue jean shorts or playing alley sports or me, Mun, and Gus and Claw with hat-top fades and fat gold chains and big old cell phones, and we were sitting on the front porch watching cars go by. We all had smiles and better days ahead. You remember me. You remember me. Go to the teacher who said I never got a high school and tell her I got a college degree. Go to the man who said I wouldn't get off the block and tell him I'd have been around the world. Go to the police who beat me, threw me in the backseat of a car, took me to another gang territory, left me there to die. Go to anybody and everybody that's called me lazy, stupid, ignorant, and dumb, and no matter how many names they call me, I could not be broken. I'm like Antoine Fisher, and I am still standing. It ain't where you from, it's where you at, Will. It ain't where you been, it's where you about to go. Oh, you gonna remember me. Go to Gus Gray's site. I know they shot you in the streets, but I told you want to play football. Go to Booty Gray's site. I know they shot you like it was nobody, but I told you want to play football. Go to my daddy's great site. Yeah, daddy, I know you hustled and I know you bang, but when I got my degree, I put it at the headstone you didn't have, and I said, look, daddy, I fixed our name. Go to anywhere and everywhere some child in trouble. And look, go to my old high school where they said I was slow, and they said I was stupid, and they said I couldn't write a paragraph, and they was trying to make me take medicine, and they was kicking me out the building, and they set me in a corner, and they said I was dumb. Listen real good. Let it be said I wrote 1,000,000 words, 100,000 words, ghetto super ascribe agile, I blanketed them over inspired by cannabis, and guess what? I still failed English class. I ain't no dummy. I know they don't know what happened last night. They don't know my father got killed last night. They don't know I ran from the police last night. They don't know we didn't eat last night. Go to anywhere and everywhere some child in trouble, and I'm not lying when I tell you, believe me when I say it, Kathleen, I got some blood on my hands. I got some scars on my back. I swear to you, I have been places where the sun don't shine, but I'm telling you, in this room, my right hand to the God I know, will you let it be said, and then with the right hand to the God I know, you let it be said that Ronald Reagan and George Bush need to be held accountable for the insurmountable murders in the stockpile of black and brown bodies. They never did time for drive-bys. They never came to the funerals of our friends. They didn't come when crack hit the neighborhood. They didn't come then, and they ain't coming now. So when I tell them, boys, you better wear that T-shirt and SOS and say yourself, it ain't no Superman, but I bet you when I'm done with this, you're going to remember me. And listen, when it's all said and done, do me a favor. Please listen to me. Make your way to the west side of Chicago. Go to Central Park in Jackson. Listen. Walk up 2 flights of steps. Listen. There's a light-skinned lady with lips and eyes just like mine. Take a book of my poems and kiss my mother. Hug my niece. Hold my brother. Remember my granny. And hold my sister. And tell my brothers. And tell my brothers we just misunderstood. The blood is on the hands and it can't be washed off. But at night we have said, forgive us, God. I swear we have said, forgive us, God. Forgive us, God, for we knew not what we did then and sometimes now. So no sad songs. Don't look out for me. Don't put my face on the T-shirt. It's redemption time. Look, do me a favor. Stand in front of that building on the west side where I shot them things and I slung them things and I read the right books and I changed my life and you sprinkle some ashes there. Then listen, go to California where the blue ocean and the golden sun saved my life and you sprinkle some ashes there. Then come on 13th and Atkins where I told the boys, hey, man, hey, pull your pants up. Take the pills out your mouth. Hit your chest and speak clearly so the world know you was here and sprinkle some ashes there. Then go to Tennessee where I stood on the balcony in the window where they shot Dr. King and you sprinkle some ashes there. Then go to Harlem where I stood where they shot Malcolm and you sprinkle some ashes there. Then go down to Virginia where the first Africans landed and they was burning us, lynching us, and branding us like animals. Now they put their knee on our neck and that foot in our back and they shooting us in our back and they killing us over Skittles and they killing us. And you do me a favor. Bring me some Pop. Bring me some Biggie. Bring me some Coltrane. Bring me some Malcolm. Bring me an ink pen. And listen, bring my grandfather's shoes, because I got a long walk ahead of me. Tell the Igbo woman I'm coming, Bruce. Take my ashes, shake them like dice. I swear we're going to get 7 on this one and send me home. Thank y'all.
Wow.
I appreciate it.
Wow.
Thank you. Listen, and while we doing this now, thank you all. This is love. I so appreciate it. Listen, if you want to, thank you. If you have any questions right now, I'm okay with it. If not, we can proceed. I'm okay either way. Are we good on time, Will?
Yeah, we're good on time.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, all of you. So listen, I do want to answer questions, but I do want you to take a little bit so if anybody has a question, if you like the poem, we can talk. If not, I'm going to move forward. I'm used to doing it in person, so I know. You're welcome. Thank you. No problem. How's anybody? Quick question for you. Who liked the poem and who wants to comment on it? Who's feeling a certain way with the poem? Anybody?
Yeah, I think if anyone is, you can come off mute.
Yes, you can. I'm sorry. You can come off mute. My apologies. I'm so used to being in person. So.
Right here.
Go ahead.
Brother, that was amazing. Much love, and it really speaks to what we as the Black community really go through. And as we walk in some of these boat houses, the people that are there, they don't really understand that. And so it's one of those things like, what you looking at me like that for? You know, they don't understand it. You know, they really don't. So for all those that are on the call that don't look like brother and myself, he really spoke the words of a lot of us that's doing this work. And I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Keep that in mind too. The next part before we speak, keep that in mind. He said, what are you looking at? Right. The young men I work with, I got braids in my hair because the young man said, Mr. Kwabena, people don't take you serious when you have braids in your hair and etc. They see us as criminals, thugs. So I did this to show them, no, it's not what they see. It's what you believe about yourself. And I need you to know that this is something, but it is a truth because when you see it and you say, well, who is this? Both parties, you don't know my story, so you don't know, I don't know yours, and you don't know mine. I can assume, or you can assume until we get to connect, right? Anyone else? And you can just come off mute. If not, no problem, right? Okay. And if
Kwabena,
you
I just want to
please,
say, I mean, I've seen, you know, I've been in now just different rooms with you, and I mean, so honored that you're able to speak to this group. You know, these are leaders in the rowing community, and so, you know, I've been with you in the rooms with the kids, and it's amazing to see your message resonate there so powerfully, and also here super powerfully as well. So I appreciate you as always.
man, listen, I appreciate you. I do. And I thank you for this opportunity. So listen, and I have more, and I'll put my information about my poems and everything in there. So I want to do this real quick with you guys. And not a rush, but listen. So we're talking sports, community, and connection, right? I don't think you can work with anyone if you don't see them. Male, female, other. If you don't see me, you can't feel me nor teach me. I work with young people who say they are not seen. So they'll do anything to get your attention. Oh, you don't, I'm asking a question, you don't hear me? I'll kick this chair. Now, that's not appropriate, but I don't know the language of, hey, I need to be seen. So how do I make myself present and seen? They don't know. And then as an adult, as an educator, as a person who's leading what you guys are doing, how do I reach them? I don't know that story, Mr. Kwabena. I'm not from that. How do I reach them? You can't reach them through my story. You reach them through your story. Your story is what makes you, like my story is what makes me. But before you tell a story, you have to do something. And I'm going to ask you to do this with me. You have to be honest with yourself and tell yourself the truth. Because who you are now is amazing. But a lot of times who we are now, there's some scars we left back then. There's some things we hold back. There's a reason we do the work we do because the scars that we had then. And here's my scar when I was a boy. I love baseball, Amanda. I was crazy about baseball. My coach, Elvin Dotson, and I can say it, he was our coach. My father was killed. I was looking for a male figure my whole young life. And to this day, Elvin Dotson was a little league coach. He preyed up on boys like myself. He was there with us. He watched us play baseball. And later on, we found out Elvin was a pedophile. There was a young man on the team. I tried to help, but I couldn't. I'm only 12 years old. I don't know. But that moment with Elvin, how he lied to me, tried to lure me to his house, tried to manipulate us with gifts, changed my whole way of dealing with men and sports because I couldn't trust anymore. I trusted him. He was like a father figure. He showed us baseball. And later on, we found out how he really was. That killed my trust. It said, you know what? If he can't, everybody can. So for a long time, when I did have an opportunity to play sports, I would be like, I would watch the guy. Like, no, I don't trust him. I don't know what he may or may not do. And then later on, we start seeing this on a regular basis. These men who were coaching baseball, right? These women who were coaching basketball. You start hearing these stories. And that changed my whole understanding of sports. But I started there because that made me create a safe space. That helped me, Amanda, to say, no, in this room, you'll be safe. If you come in here, I got you on the basics, water, food, gathering, comfort, we got you. But it has to start with the truth. So I need everybody, if you can, we're going to do a writing exercise. Just as the music, you're going to, at the top of your paper, do this real quick if you can. I just want you to do it. This is a blank sheet of paper. This is called the mirror. All right. My grandmother said you can lie to everyone but the person in the mirror. At the top of that page, write this phrase called "the truth is." And if need be, I can put it in the chat. Excuse my dialect. I'm a Chicago guy, so some of my T's and R's don't go the same way. All right. Once you have that in there. Now, I'll give you the cue when I want it to come on. So I did this exercise with a young man. Tried to get him to write. He's like, I ain't writing nothing, man. I'm finna go. We were in the lockup. He's like, I'm getting out next week. He was right. So me and my partner, Muhib Dyer, we get him to write. He said, all right, man, give me the paper. We get him to write. Close to the truth as I can get it. Chance, he says, the truth is, I wish I knew my father. Jenny, he says, the truth is, wish I knew my mother. Truth is, I've been in foster care. Truth is, I don't read well. Truth is, nobody cares anyway. Truth is, I don't want to write no more. Truth is, we should have stayed down south. Truth is, I'm tired of writing. Truth is, the weed ain't helping. Truth is, I'm done. Truth is, that's the end of it. Truth is, I need to be a better father. Truth is, nobody showed me how to be a father. Everybody take a look at this. This young man wrote this for me on a Tuesday. Bruce, when I came back, a week later, he was dead. It's not a sad story. It's the truth. And I share his story everywhere. And that's how I connect with other young men and adults and people, because I actually just be unapologetically honest. And we can't create any type of safe spaces, groups, or anything if we're not honest with things that we don't like, and even our own pains and scars. Because one thing about young people, they can see through it. They can smell it and they know it. And they can say, you might like me, but you not liking me. You might be here, but you not really here. And you might say you want me a part of this, but you kind of don't want me a part of this. If I don't show up, you wouldn't care. But if you are honest and say, you know what, everything you just said is right. But guess what? If we sit down and work together, I think we can do it. And that's what I got with this young man. Unfortunately, he died. Now I'm going to ask you, when this music comes on, Jess, you can hit the music. It's a music song by Donny Hathaway. You can write. Now, when I say stop, you have to immediately stop. Everybody ready? We good, Jess? Go. Thank you, Jess.
A concept that
Right until I ask you to stop.
Going to try to tell you at this time.
Truth is,
He ain't
I
here.
miss my dad.
He's my brother.
Truth is, life is hard.
The road is
Truth is,
long.
it ain't easy, but it's worth doing.
With many a winding turn.
Just let that pen flow. Just write. Don't stop. No periods, no commas. Just write. See, can we turn it up? Someone says they can't hear the song.
Knows where.
Thank you.
Who knows where?
That's right.
Lord help tonight.
Keep going.
But I am strong enough.
Gus was a really good guy.
To carry him.
That's right. Even if you get emotional, right?
He ain't heavy. He's my brother. So on we go.
Talk about what hurts. Talk about what needs to heal.
His welfare is my concern.
What's holding you back? No
burden is he to bear.
People judge me, but they
Wish
don't
I
know
could
me.
this evening, y'all. We'll get back.
Great job, everybody.
For I know he
Right, keep
will
going.
not
Don't think, just right.
encumber me.
Truth is, some days I want to give up. Truth is, I gotta get out of here and keep going.
He ain't happy.
Somebody needs to apologize to me.
He's my brother.
Life is hard, but it's fair. The truth is, you are going to fall. You fall,
If
land
I'm
on your back.
laid on at
Land on your back. If you look up, that means you get up. The truth is, somebody waiting on you to give them what they didn't get.
I'm laid up with sadness.
The truth is, it don't matter how much I yell and scream. It's not what they say about you. It's what you need and know about yourself.
Everyone's heart
Truth is,
is not filled with gladness and love and love and love for one another. Yeah, yeah. I said it's a long, I said it's a long, yeah, it's a long, hard road from which there is no return.
all right, let's bring it to an end. You can stop it. All right. Everybody take a deep breath. Because I was looking at the screen, I saw many of you. Thank you. All right. Everybody take a nice little deep breath. All right. Real quick, by a show of hands, who could have kept on writing? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I could see you. Who got a little emotional while they were writing? Anybody? Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, as we getting ready to start bringing home, I want to share something with you, Chance. You see this? This is called the mirror. That's why I had you write. This is the mirror. I need everybody to do me a favor. Take a look at the paper you wrote. Hold it with two hands and just look at it. Yep, there you go. Look at it, please. Don't look up at me. Just look at it for a second. Thank you, Chance. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Rob. Just look at it. Michael, remember you guys, I told you be looking in the mirror? Well, there's your life. That's everything you've been through. I'm not talking the confident person you are. I'm not talking about the coach, the CEO. I'm talking about the person, that girl, that boy, that child, that person, that husband, that wife, that partner, that brings some things with them, that has some hurts there, that has some stuff that helped them or push you to be here. That pain. That's your life. Now, if you're looking at it and there's some anger and pain there, I just got to just bear with me about the population you possibly going to work with. You can turn yours on and off. If they have this on their paper, it's there. They've repeated that story over and over again. And can I share? Look at this. They may not get counseling when their friend gets killed. They may not get counseling when when there's a body laying outside. They may not get counseling when they see these videos on and on about young people or people in their families' neighborhoods being shot, killed. They may not get counseling. And some of them may even go back and take out and excuse me, I got to plug in. I'm sorry. Gotcha. And some of them may even decide that they want their lick back. But you know what happens? The judge does not say he grew up in a rough neighborhood. The judge does not say she had some scars, some trauma. They just say, bad child, bad problem. Hey, you know what? You shouldn't have did this. You shouldn't have did that, etc., etc. Go. And that's it. And that story follows them for the rest of their days. And then they may get through in one of your programs. And before anybody gets to know them, the neighborhood they come from, the color they got on, or whatever it is, they'll bring that with them. And one wrong thing, they'll say, you know what? I don't want to be here either. So I'm saying to you, you're the last of the defense. Your truth will help their truth. It's important to be able to share your story in front of people. Quick question. How are we on time?
Kwabena, we got to wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes, and then all right, then we're on to our
I'm so sorry.
On to the next session. Yeah, no.
So let me wrap it up with this. Here's why I want to wrap up. I want to leave you with several things, and I promise I'll do this. Number one, your story matters. You notice why I asked you, if you didn't know, I asked you to tell your story because when you share your story, there's a weight taken off of you. You look a certain way. You stand a certain way. When the young people around you hear that story, whether you tell that part or not, there's a connection somewhere. You can ask them, how do you feel? Once you're in that room and they see those hands go up, they make connection and they start building with each other. The second thing about creating a safe space is this. Sports is way bigger than just sports for some people. For some people, this is their ticket out. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. For some people, it's prevention. In 1983 and 82, I was involved in sports. The next year, all the sports sponsors and everything left my neighborhood. This is the era of crack. By 1983, we were all gang banging and acting out because we didn't have those spaces to go to anymore. The very things we did playing sports, we transferred to the streets in the corner. Imagine if you can get those kids on the corner, those kids who are confused, those kids who are uncertain. Imagine if you can take all of those skills and transfer them over into your sports, into your clubs, into your groups. The next thing you do is the badge of honor and identity of belonging. You have to make it so attractive. Right now, death is being sold to young people. They make death look good. We have to make life look well. You have to sell life because they are selling death on the pills, the movies, the videos. We have to sell life. So that room and that team you create, be energetic. You need affirmation. You need chants. They holler it on the neighborhood streets, then you got to have it in there. Let them be a part of a focus group. What do we want in this room? Give and take. Maybe they want a picture of Tupac. I know they don't. They call me old now, but they don't want a picture of Tupac, but you understand me. But say, okay, if we put a picture of this, you got to put your picture of that. And then if you're going to say this, we're going to say that. Listen to me. Language changes safe spaces. The language of where they are is pain, suffering, and hurt. The safe space becomes growth, development, and healing. Imagine if you get them to see that. That multiplies. When that multiplies, that changes everything. And as you go, I just want to leave you with this. Life has two rules, and you can write this down. Life has two rules. Rule number one, don't quit. Just rule number two, don't forget rule number one. That's by Duke Ellington. Life has two rules. Rule number one, don't quit. Rule number two, don't forget rule number one. You got to create the spaces you want. One team wants us to lose, another team wants us to win. I believe the team that I'm on wants us to win, and we gonna go all out. If we had my man say what he used to be, and he was bold to admit that, imagine what happens now when we say who we are now. People, I'm sorry I went over. I so apologize. I love it. Will has my information. I'm so sorry. You can follow me on any platforms. If you follow me, I can. On Instagram, I can. IAMIKAN. I can. You can follow me. I'll follow you back. And you can follow me at Be Inspired Works. I'm so sorry I went over. I apologize, Jenny. I got carried away with everything, you guys. Thank you.
Kwabena, thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause to Kwabena. Wow. Kwabena, we could have gone hours. This whole summit could have been Kwabena, you taking us through. So I so appreciate you kicking off our summit. Really appreciate you being open and vulnerable and pushing us and inspiring us and just really pouring into this, our community and um, yeah, just really appreciate it. So, um, all right. Well, Kwabena, that is all that we have for this first session. We are going to move on to our second session now. And we've got everybody here, so I'm going to shift gears a bit. We are going from our keynote, Kwabena, to our panel about getting a new program up and running off the ground. So we now have the panelists, Brandon Johnson, Jewoo Im, Lucianna Ruiz, and the moderator for today's panel is Myrna Gotrell. I've gotten the opportunity to know most of the panelists over the past few years. A quick intro of each. Brannon Johnson is the founder of BLJ Community Rowing in Philadelphia. It's a boathouse that's built in a thriving inclusive community that's built a thriving inclusive community on the Schuylkill River. Jewoo Im is the coach and founder of the para rowing program at Lincoln Park Boat Club in Chicago. And he's helping adaptive athletes build bridges into competitive rowing opportunities. Lucianna Ruiz is the head coach and founder of Evanston Township High School Rowing, a program that's brought over 100 new rowers into the sport in just 4 years. Our session is moderated by Myrna Gotrell, who is a rowing coach and the CEO of Hope on Water. I've gotten to know Myrna over the past few years, and she is just incredible. Myrna, I'm so excited for you to lead this panel, and the floor is yours.
All right, just had to unmute myself there. Well, hello and welcome everybody. Will, thank you so much for having us and for doing this panel, for doing this whole program, actually. I came in on the end of Kwabena there, and I think that's going to be a hard act to follow. That was very inspiring, the last half hour that I was able to listen in on that. So welcome everyone, Brannon, Lucianna, Jewoo. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. I know that our topic is getting a new program off the ground, and that's not an easy thing to do. And so I hope that we can, through our conversation, we can inspire and give a few pointers to the attendees here today on the pitfalls and the challenges of starting a new program and how we can overcome some of those. So why don't we start with Brannon, if you don't mind, if you can give us just a brief overview of, what your program, what was the original vision behind your program, and what you think the most important thing is when we're trying to start a new program.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Brannon Johnson. I am born and raised in Philadelphia. I won't do the song. Everybody's already heard the Will Smith song. But I basically learned to row at 14 and then went to Vesper, trained at a Vesper on a full scholarship, started winning races, so trained for junior national team, then went to University of Texas on a full scholarship, then started training for the national team. So I kind of really had a really interesting trajectory in the sport. The great thing about traveling the world and racing all over the place was I just didn't see, anyone that looked like me. So I kind of challenged myself to come up with a solution, and I knew I could hold space and do things differently. I think, growing up in the sport and being a Black woman, I saw what everyone was, I got a front row seat sort of to what everyone was doing. And Philadelphia is a rowing mecca. So I knew I knew some things I wanted to do differently. And I started doing them differently. I started my organization about 15, 16 years ago. And yeah, we're doing great. We're the first Black owned and operated rowing organization in the country. We got an award for it, which was absolutely crazy. I hang it in my bathroom just to remind me to, keep doing this work. And now, yeah, I think one of the things that's really important about starting anything, one is to be decisive. You can't do anything until you make a decision. And I think, also solve a problem. I think one of the things we do really well is we're very specific. And, that's why we have, Black youth, Black masters, our donors are Black, our advisory board is Black. And I think that we're very specific about that. So don't try to do, the more general you are, I think it's such a heavy lift. And I think being very specific about your solution is important.
Awesome. Brannon, well, one of the things that, when I spoke with Will, he told me that one of the things that was most important to you was to be present. And that really got me thinking, because when I started my program, that was the thing that kind of got the program off the ground, to be physically present where your team is. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
So one of the things that's really important and I think kind of sets us apart is we participate in the community. And, people don't care, what you know until they know that you care. So we didn't go out and recruit. We basically participated in our community. We live in our community. And it's just a regular Tuesday. And now, our learner roles are always absolutely waitlisted out because we started where we live. We weren't going out to recruit a community we didn't have. We basically live, breathe, and eat and, worship and hang out with the community, so we don't really have to recruit. And I think that's one specific difference that we have that a lot of other organizations don't.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree with that. One of the things that I found when I started the high school team, I work in the school system, but I was working in the elementary school. And it wasn't until I moved to the high school that the program really started taking over, because then I was amongst the teachers, I was amongst the administrators, I was amongst the athletes, so they could see me on a daily basis and say, "Hey, coach, how are you doing today? Hey, coach, I need this." Or, "What time is practice today, coach?" So being physically present amongst the people that you're trying to guide and amongst the people that you're trying to recruit, I think is really important. And, is a key factor in trying to get your program off the ground.
Yeah, and I think it also is a great way to plot your trajectory, your success, and your plan, right? So I think sometimes people, I just did an interview and somebody was asking me, how we came up with that. We started working with recently incarcerated because it was a no-brainer, because all of my kids have a parent or had a parent that's been in prison. Right. So it's a no-brainer for us to do a learner row for recently incarcerated people, because that's actually healing for our community. Right. And then it's just like an interest. It wasn't like we just created this thing. It's just it was a problem that we all live with. And it was just an easy sort of thing for us to do. And I think that whenever you are living in the community that you're a part of, I think that those wonderful sort of solutions happen, and there's a synergy that starts to kind of build, and you can't really plot or plan that. It happens organically.
Absolutely. So let me move on to Lucianna for a little bit. Lucianna, you're from Chicago. You're also a high school coach, just like myself. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience, what motivated you to start the program, and some of the challenges and some of the successes that you've had with the program?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of going back, I'm not originally from Chicago. I grew up in Arkansas and I went to Chicago for school, and that's how I kind of found rowing very accidentally. But as many of us do, kind of got bit by the bug, and fell in love with the sport. And we first started like getting in front of kids and getting kids through the program in 2022, but there were like years of work leading up to that. So that was connecting with different like-minded folks within the boathouse. Michael and Sandy, who are here, were a couple of the key players in there of getting to know that space, thinking through the mission and vision, understanding how it would fit within the school. So there were like probably 2 or 3 years of, call it like designing what the program was going to be, how it was going to fit in, how are we actually going to get this thing like realized, and who do we need to know to help us get to that point. So it very much feels like we're still in the beginning. We're going into our 4th year, and a lot of the challenges at the beginning was a lot of not like pivoting necessarily, but like the big focus for me was creating an experience that kids wanted to come back to, and that was like very aligned to our mission, which is to have a diverse and accessible and competitive program within the high school. And I had in my mind like what I thought that should be. I've done all these years and I've thought about this so much, like I'm gonna get it right off the bat, right? And that was not the case. So having to be nimble, and flex to my own expectations, and I guess be a little bit more flexible in my thinking and approach was a challenge for me personally at the beginning. But all of it was done with like a goal experience and a feeling I wanted to create for the kids. I don't know if that answers all of your questions, but that's kind of top of mind for me now, especially as we're going into 4th year, having like a new team size, adjusting to depth on all rosters and how we create a culture. And the importance of culture has been like very much front of mind. So it's requiring a little bit more flexibility and nimbleness.
So you're in a public school, right? How did you find that the administration was on board? Did you get a lot of pushback? Are they supportive? What is the atmosphere around that? Because I know, I'm in a public school as well. Rowing is a new sport for most of the people in my population. For most of the administration, they've never heard of rowing. It's not part of our normal athletic schedule. So in the beginning, I did get a lot of pushback from, the athletic director, what is this rowing thing? We don't have money for that. So what was your experience like trying to get a program started in a public school space?
Yeah, similar to, I think if I could summarize it, it was like, who is this kid for the first couple of years? Like it honestly took like 2 years of just building trust and relationships and really just building trust in different people to like get handed off to the next person and build trust in a relationship with that person to get handed off to the next person who then after years got us in front of the athletic director. And then we had a little bit more credibility behind here's what we were doing, here's why it's important, here's how it's affected us. And by that point, I had talked to like 3 or 4 different people who were kind of helping seed what the message needed to be to the athletic director to get like the green light. And effectively that was, we can do it without any money. So that, I mean, obviously that's that was a difficult one to design around, but ended up being really important to get the final green light. Yeah, but it was very, in the beginning, a lot of that advocacy, a lot of telling the story, a lot of getting ready for like that big kind of athletic director conversation. And then even within the first year, it was very like, oh, we'll see if they stick around. Like, there's our rowing team, those kids, what are they doing? And it took even now until like this year to really have a solid footing within the school. So a lot of very persistent optimism in the face of like, yeah, I've been here for 30 years. Like, what are they up to? But it takes time, but it gets there.
Yeah, I like that persistent optimism as a good turn of phrase for that. But yeah, it's one of the barriers also that we had to get over, and I still think my athletic director is not on board, but the principal and the board are all on board. It took a lot of hey, look what this has done for this kid, and look at what this has done for that kid, and you know, just like really pushing back to say, hey, we're a legitimate sport. You know, here's
Yeah.
the interest. You know, you told me I can only have 15 kids, but look, I have 25 kids that are lined up that want to do the sport. So
Yeah.
it did take a little bit of convincing.
And that experience of the kids being so undeniably positive, like went in our favor as well. Like if our anchor to get kids in the door was to create this experience, this community, it also became like our means of advocacy was the kids were then telling other people about it, and that made its way to the administration. So it all kind of tied together.
So Jewoo, let's bring you in on this conversation. I know your program is adaptive rowing, which is awesome. Which can you tell us a little bit about your program, and again, some of the challenges that you had trying to get the program off the ground, and how you were able to circumvent those challenges?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jewoo. We started the para rowing team about like 3 months ago. We started planning for it 2 years ago, and we just got it off the grounds. So a little bit about myself. I started rowing in middle school, and rowing was a big part of my growing growth formative experience in high school, like many of you. And later in high school, when I was at the height of my rowing career, we had won U.S. Rowing Youth Nationals, and I suddenly had to quit because of a medical condition, and it was very isolating. In the past like 5 years, I had a lot of opportunity to reflect, and there's really nothing like rowing. Rowing is a very unique space of community. And purpose, and I wanted this sport to be accessible to people that wouldn't have it otherwise. In Chicago, I started volunteering for different adaptive sports, and I realized rowing is not one, which I found to be pretty shocking. It's a very big metropolitan area, so I approached Lincoln Park Boat Club, and we started this program this fall with the help of USRowing United We Row. There's a lot of challenges that comes with starting an adaptive sports, especially an aquatic one, because there's a lot of safety concerns. People will come very intimidated at the fact of going out on a reservoir or a lake, open water, because many of them can't swim. So there's a lot of steps that you want to take to build trust. I think the first step is kind of uh, going off of what Brandon was saying, is immersing yourself in the adaptive sports community. Get to know the adaptive sports team in your area. They will give you a lot of resources. One unique thing about adaptive sports is that it's one community and not like able-bodied sports where it's like rowing is very different from track and track is very different from football. The same group of pool of people will participate in the different adaptive sports offered in your area. So once you start volunteering, you'll get to know pretty much everyone. It's a small social circle. So once you start to volunteer, you'll learn how to transfer people in and out of wheelchairs. You'll learn the different safety measures in biking, in kayaking, in anything that's offered. And most importantly, you'll learn what fundraising looks like in your area. Different cities have different fundraising, and I think there's a separate session for that later. So I won't go into that too much, but you learn a lot from talking to the leaders. And then you have to do research on the equipment that you use. There's not a lot of equipment made by boat makers for adaptive rowing, para rowing. So you have to be a little bit creative. You have to get obviously fixed seats and compatible boats. There's also a session on adaptive rowing later, so I'll just touch on the surface. But for erging, I think you have to be a bit creative to be cost effective. So instead of getting clamps that are maybe a couple of $100 that fixes the seat, we get a little C clamps that if you Google C clamps, you'll see what it is, or maybe you already know what it is. It's like $3. And we put it on the front and back of the erg seat that's already there, and it fixes it for people that have leg paralysis. A lot of people come post-stroke. Stroke is one of the biggest causes of physical impairment in America. So a lot of people come in with hemiplegia, which is one-sided body paralysis. So they can only use one arm. We swap out the erg handle with a D handle that you see at the gym. So it's like it looks like a D shape. You'll see it if you Google it. So these creative modifications help modify or bring down the cost and make the sport accessible to most people. If you are starting a para team, please reach out to me or feel free to reach out to me. I can give you the brands that we use. And the so okay, so that those are the basic tools that you need to start a team. I think the biggest step for us was having our recruiting events. So we sent out emails to different adaptive sports team that I got to know. And 20 people signed up for our Learn to Row events on the erg, and I got to learn the different adaptations that people need, and ordered our inventory accordingly. And we started with around 5 people that really trusted the process and 5 people that came and go, and wanted to see where this program is going to go. And we retained all 5 of them, so we have 10 active members. Um, and yeah, I think the biggest thing about adaptive sports is you want to start small because you want to make sure everything is safe and things travel by word of mouth. So the program will grow over pretty quickly, but definitely over years. The and one last thing I want to mention is challenges in creating culture. People will inevitably love rowing and be very grateful for the program. So it's easy to be complacent and have a team that has a culture of, hey, we're going out on the water and having fun. This is a good group of people, good group of friends that I want to join. But I want to challenge everyone to have a team that is centered around competition and purpose, like any other rowing team is. There's not a lot of competition around adaptive rowing in the US for now, but there can still be a lot of purpose on, especially on the ergs and on the water, in creating goals, weekly goals or monthly goals, in reaching a certain milestone. So do a baseline test or have some like technique goals on the water and have them reach that, and that can be very fulfilling for them.
Awesome. So I'm going to throw this question out there for all the panelists, and you can just jump in, if you have an answer. But Jewoo just mentioned about having the culture that's inviting, that's an inviting space. But what does a safe boathouse culture look like in your space? What kind of policies do you have in place? What kind of languages, expectations, uniforms, locker room expectations? What are some of the things that you implemented in your program that made your athletes, when they came into the boathouse, feel that they were in a safe culture? Lucianna, you want to start with that one?
Like, I'm pensively thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking back to like our very first fall when we had all of these kids, and it was such chaos. And we were kind of getting acclimated in the boathouse environment itself. It's like not only is like the culture coming from you and modeling kind of these interactions and the language you use to speak to these kids, and where you show like gentleness versus like really coming down hard is really important, especially when someone might be coming into a space that they're not super familiar with. That was a big thing for us with like establishing the kids culture, but also in kind of how we handled ourselves around the boathouse and how we modeled back to other teams. Like, this is kind of what we will and won't accept, going out to other coaches. That's one thing I wish I had done more the first year, was go introduce myself. Here's my team. Here's when we'll be here, kind of thing. But yeah, I think culture it's not like these big speeches. It's a lot of little moments, and it's a lot of little celebrations and interactions, and interrupting behavior that you don't want to kind of flourish, which doesn't have to be like a big thing. I'm thinking back to like some of the early times when we were especially establishing, like, you are all different people, and that is great and that is fine. I'm not going to like shut down categorically any one particular thing, but anything that like dampens our ability to accept and celebrate all of these different kinds of kids that we have in this program, that we will shut down. But yeah, I think a little bit of a ramble, but the small moments. The small moments are really important, and then modeling that behavior. And they come to figure it out over time. But like very much being consistent. I think we never assumed that we're all on the same page all the time. So it's just kind of being very consistent, aware, and knowing that they're having conversations without you there. So being pretty persistent what we will and won't celebrate and accept.
And just, I think also just understanding that, even though we might be the same color or we come from the same background, doesn't mean our household is the same, right? So just to be a little bit understanding and open into, whatever the challenges are for that individual. Brannon, for your team, I'm not quite sure what your space looks like. I know you said is your team mostly African American? What's your demographic like, and how do you make sure that it's a welcoming culture within your space?
So that's we have a very interesting take on that because we don't have a boathouse. So I have we're outdoors 100% of the time. We have two locations. We have a studio, an erg studio, but where our boats are all outside. We hired an engineer to design wrecks where the oars lock in and the boats all lock, but we're outside. So it's not so much we didn't really have to go in and sort of curate a space for everyone to welcome because we're outside all the time. I will say, we are predominantly Black. So if we have any conversations, it's usually the power paradigm is shifted on our side. So, if anything, we're a business. So I think if we have any issues, it's usually with a learn to row client who may be lodging a complaint or something because our kids are our learn to row coaches. So, and they're very surprised when the boss looks like the kids. So, yeah, Carol, like you're not, I am the owner. So, I think we get a little bit more of that. And I think one of the things what's fascinating to me now is that our kids are getting faster and we're competing. And there was an incident, on the water that kind of, it spilled over back on after practice and everyone was talking, but I really enjoyed watching it unfold because we're so intergenerational now. So two of my Black masters actually saw the incident. They got to the kids before I even got off my launch. And, so I think being, growing up in the sport and being in Princeton and being in Boston and, being in South Africa and in Lucerne. And I love coming home and seeing, the spaces that I really wanted to see now in like a thriving rowing mecca. So I'm really absolutely honored, and it always makes my heart sing, to see whenever things do go wrong, that we are able to handle it in such a really positive and interesting manner.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I want to add to that, the space that I started rowing in, that my daughter started rowing in, and that I started coaching in, even though my team is predominantly Hispanic and African American, we share, again, we're outside too. We don't have a boathouse. We have a boat pen. So, and we share it. We share it with a bunch of other schools. And when my daughter and I started out in the rowing world, we were really the only people of color within that space. And it was difficult.
My mom always says a raisin in a sea of rice whenever I was racing in regattas, and that has stayed with me like over decades.
Yeah. I call it peppercorns in a sea of salt.
There you go. Exactly.
Because we, my daughter and I, we're a little bit spicy,
Mm-hmm.
So, we go with the peppercorns. So that was a challenge that I still think to this day we're fighting through. I mean, just this last summer, I was called the angry Black woman on the dock, but so some of those, tropes still come through. So I'm wondering whether it's because of race or because of neurodiversity or because of, a physical disability. When you come across those challenges when you're building those programs, can you share with us some of the strategies that you use to kind of get around those challenges, and to make sure that your kids are safe, to make sure that your program is successful in that area?
Oh, Myrna, you're really killing me today. Okay.
Good questions.
So, okay, I can try. I want to be as transparent as I possibly can and understand, I also absolutely am the leader that grew up in the sport. So I do hold rowing accountable because I've had some of my best moments and some of my worst moments in the sport. Now, the way I lead my masters is very different than how I lead my youth. But I will say, I think one of the things that's really important is we talk about power and we talk about understanding, one, that they respect the space that we've built and that a lot of kids don't get to have this wrong experience. But we did have an issue. There was a huge issue where somebody said the N-word, and it happened at a regatta that we weren't even at. And however, my organization got called to say something on social media like, Coach, we shouldn't be quiet. We should be, because these youth are very, rambunctious. They're rah ready. And we had a really interesting conversation because I sat everybody down and I said, do we own the station that was recorded it? No. Do we own the boats that was set in? No. So we really turned it into ownership. I said, so what we're not going to do is go out into a white space and try to police that. Now, if someone came on our dock and was is in our tent and said the N-word, how do you think that would happen? They were like, it would never happen. Right. So the N-word it's never happened. And in our organization, it's never happened on our dock. It's never slipped out. It's never, because we are in power, right? We own it. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm really clear with the youth about. Like, understand proximity, understand power, understand that what we're doing is we're raising you to go out in a world that's not set up for you and extract what you need. So, like they really had like these aha moments and these epiphanies because they understood it's not my job to go out and police the world. That's not here. My job is to do is to create this space for you to develop, and then we want to own, right? We want to go out and we want to own our boats. We want to own our spaces. And then the conversation is different because now we're not begging. Now we're demanding. And I think that that's one very specific thing that my mentor and my advisory team, they're very clear at, and they sit down with the boys and we're very clear about that turning point as far as like something like an incident.
Right. So kind of owning, what I hear you saying is owning your power and creating that culture from the get-go when you're starting your organization. From the get-go, you have your athletes owning the power of the space that they're in, and operating within that power. And Jewoo, I think it's the same for adaptive rowers. I work with I teach special education, so I work with neurodiverse athletes, and half of my team are neurodiverse athletes. And one of the big challenges that I had when I was setting up the team, I would have athletes come to me and say, "Hey, coach, I'm not good at any other sports. Should I join the team?" I'm like, absolutely, yes, you should join the team. You give the best of who you are, no matter what that looks like, right? So for adaptive rowers as well, when you're setting up your program, Jewoo, did you find any challenges with the athletes not wanting to put themselves out there? Because of their disability, or because they felt like they wouldn't be accepted.
I think the biggest questions the athletes had when coming into the boathouse was, is it really going to be possible for me to go out on the water and be safe? And so it was more of a concern of safety and logistics than confidence. And I knew that we had the adaptations, the equipment to bring the people out safely and to develop them into athletes. So I think it's creating the culture is a mix of being confident in what you know and also knowing your limitations and understanding that the athletes sometimes are the expert in what they bring. So they know the limits. And so, for example, one of our athletes has multiple sclerosis, which they have episodes of attacks on their spinal cord. So they lose balance and they lose control over their body for short periods of times. And sometimes they should not be pushing themselves in a sport. And some days they need to take off. So I didn't know that before I started coaching. And so I understand that my athletes know their body better than I do, right? But I know rowing better than they do. And I think it's a mix of, hey, tell me what you know and I'll coach you what I know.
Yeah, I absolutely can understand that. Again, a little bit about me. I'm stage 4 cancer. And I learned how to row after my fourth operation for breast cancer at stage 3. And part of part of the byproduct of those surgeries was that I do not have feeling on my right side. So I would never row a single, and I would never row. I would never bow a boat. And so I was always stroking a double because I knew that I had that limitation of being able to turn around in the to look behind me. And also, if I cramped up, I always wanted someone within the boat with me so that if something happened, there would be somebody else there to help. So you need to really know your athletes and what their limitations are and what the safety requirements are when you're setting up your program, and make sure you have everything and that you're making the right decisions for those athletes so that safety is not a concern. So yeah, absolutely, I think that's a big one. Let's switch to financing for a little bit. I know fundraising is a big part of, we can't operate a program without money. What were some of the challenges that you guys came across with financing as a startup and ongoing? And can you give us some of your strategies, share with us some of your strategies in getting around those financial issues, those struggles? I don't know who wants to jump in first.
I can jump in first because I think we're a little bit of a unique situation. Our program itself for the kids is dues free. So out of the 100 kids, none of them pay to play in order to come and participate in the program, which is like that leaves a big gap, a very, very large gap to fund everything that we need to do. And honestly, for the first 3 years, we were entirely dependent on other programs, borrowing their equipment and running starting to learn how to fundraise on our own, having a very small seed donation, actually from an NCCR donor who helped us survive the first fall. And then we were able to run our first fundraiser and survive through the spring and then run another one. And it was a little, I don't want to say touch and go, but we didn't feel that sense of financial security for a long time in terms of we have a nest egg, we're good, it's pretty still season to season. But creating the very much outside of the operational aspects of running a fundraiser, which I am happy to get into, the messaging around the fundraiser and here's what we're here to do and getting that word out, and having being pretty explicit on the goal, especially when you're so early in a brand new program. Every single dollar helps us get a new oar or a used oar and helps us get more and more independence, because kind of in the realm of what Brannon was talking about, when you're in such a dependent position, it's really hard to thrive. So getting to the point where a new program can be independent and have that ownership is so important. So we're very much in the early stages of getting where we need to be to really thrive. So that's been the primary, in addition, of course, to we want to get there, and that's a major goal of ours, and we don't want to have to sacrifice racing to do that. We don't want to have to race less or practice less. in order to achieve that. So lots of creative back end operational things, but really that's the major like campaigning message for us.
So you're in Lucianna, you're in a school setting, a high school setting, correct? Did the school support you financially in any way? Do you have a budget? Do you have a coaching budget? Is there a stipend, anything at all that the school pitches in?
Yeah. For the first year, no, it was $0. I think maybe there was $75 for the supply account, which we all know that goes very fast. But now the school supports, we're under the school's insurance umbrella, which is like a big like breath of fresh air or big relief. They provided at first 2 coaching stipends, and then that's up to 2 or 3, and now I think it's up to 6 across the staff of like 10 or 11. So they are providing support, but it's not a competitive market rate. It's what they can provide us, which is helpful, but it's definitely not enough to cover like absolutely everything. So there's like some coaching stipends. They'll cover the couple of bus trips that we do as long as they're day trips and not overnight. And then the insurance is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So coming from the school perspective as well, for the first couple of years, we got nothing. I mean, I bought a Cricut machine because that's how we were making uniforms, right? I was going and buying the T-shirts and pulling out the Cricut and ironing on the logo and, all of that. We got no support at all from our school. But again, once I moved to the high school, where I could actually just go and plop myself in the principal's office and say, hey, kids are benefiting from this. I need some help here. Can you give me some money? Yeah. And then he would go to the board and, fight. So now it's evolved to the space where they give us busing. We get busing to practice and we get busing to the regattas. They give us, they actually pay for, we don't own any equipment, right? So we rent from the local club here, Bergen County Rowing Academy. We rent the equipment, we pay them to, for trailering and, all of that good stuff. And, they gave us space in the gym and space in the weight room to practice and all of that. But that took a lot of, placing myself in a seat in front of somebody who had the authority to do it. And to the point where they were like, see me coming and turn the other way going down the hallway because they know like, Mr. Montesano, I need, know. So don't be afraid to kind of just, step out of your comfort zone and just put yourself in front of them and ask. Don't be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get it. And that's what I'm finding. So, the first year I asked for one thing, then the next year I asked for something else. And then the next year I asked for something else, until it got to the point where they're pretty much funding the spring season, and then we fundraise for all the little extra things that we need. As far as equipment goes, Brannon and Jewoo, like how did you acquire equipment? I mean, you need boats to race, you need ergs to train, you need a dock, you need access to water. How did you without being in a school setting manage to get all of those things that are necessary to start a program? The infrastructure, the tangible.
We're actually at 2 schools. So we are, one of the things we did was our master's program funds, our youth program is absolutely free. Our kids do not pay, but we are at 2 schools, Girard College and Boys Latin, which are all Black. Girard is an all Black boarding school and Boys Latin is an all Black boys school. Those are our 2 sort of youth programs that they make up our youth program. And one of the things we did really well was we spent time developing our master's program. Our masters pay. They pay for their training. They pay for, their membership dues. They pay for coaching packages. And then that is what funds the youth program. And I think that I was very specific about not being a 501c3 because I think, being a for-profit entity, everyone is aware of the bottom line and everyone is focused on the bottom line. We also teach our kids to coach. So we have a coaching development program. So our kids are learning to coach while they're learning and training in their singles. So then they start making money and then that starts making us money. And then they're going out and running our Learn a Rose. So I think that the building blocks were really, really key And one, understanding, figuring out what was revenue generating. Our Learn to Rows are really, really fun. There's music, everybody's singing, but now we can sell those. Our corporate trainings are fun. And our kids work those, right? Our youth work those, our masters work those. So that's another, sort of revenue generating kind of activity that we participate in, which helps us reach our bottom line because we bought all our boats. We own everything. We buy it. We wait until we have the money and then we purchase it. We acquire. We bought a lot of stuff, old and used and fixed up. And, I think that once we started getting traction and once we started that synergy I was talking about earlier, now people really want to participate. I think, Boys Latin just actually, Girard College, I worked for free for them for 3 years, before they even wrote a check, right? And so I think that's important. That's what's important is, so a lot of it is thankless. A lot of it is you're not getting paid. But I think one of the things we did well was figure out where we could get paid and really hone those skills.
Awesome. Jewoo, I knew for you, equipment is really important. And there's a lot of specialized equipment that you need. How did you get around the financing for that?
So I was lucky in that Lincoln Park Boat Club was trying to start a para team maybe 5 years ago before the fixed seats were washed away in a flood. So we had a compatible boat. We had two singles that were compatible, and we have fours for people that don't need a fixed seat that we can take up from our other boathouse. So we already had an existing boathouse and some oars and boats. So we needed fixed seats that are a couple of $1,000s to get two of them. And we needed smaller modifications. So it probably took around $5,000 to really kickstart the program with everything included. And the benefit of being an adaptive team is that there are a lot of grants out there that support initiatives like this. For example, I think you have to be a little bit specific when you look up these grants. So you have to look up programs that support paralysis or post-stroke rehab or specific disabilities, and you have to know the athletes that you are serving. But once you do, you can find grants that support you. And another fundraising opportunity that we are looking into is getting marathon tickets. So Chicago Marathon supports local charities or local nonprofits, and athletes have to raise $1,400 or $1,500 to run in the marathon for a program like ours. And so that is a lot. That is a thing that a lot of the adaptive sports team do in Chicago. And so this is what I learned from volunteering, getting to know the different teams. But I think that is Chicago specific. But if you talk to the teams in your area, you'll learn these kind of opportunities.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one of the things that we do also is we look for grants that because I work with neurodiverse kids. I'm looking for grants that might not be rowing specific, but might have to do with the population that you're working with. So community grants, state grants, federal grants that might apply to the work that you're doing that might not be rowing specific, but you're touching on those specific areas that the grants are for. One of the big grants that we got for our high school was the POCAP Foundation, where we got the Erg Ed grant that brought in, I think we got 25 rowing machines and the Erg Ed program, which is a canned packaged program that I was able to roll out to all the phys ed teachers. So now rowing is now part of the physical education curriculum at the school. So not only does it expose the kids to rowing as a sport, it also gives them an opportunity to try it in gym class before they say, hey, I like this. Maybe I'll join the rowing team.
Myrna, also,
Yeah.
I just wanted to, another interesting financial piece too is I was work with the city too, like wherever you are.
Yeah.
So I made really great partners with city council. So city council actually and the park, and remember the park is usually separate from the city. And both entities really like, one, our program, they really like how we handle things. They really love our learner rows. So the park actually gives us dollars because we open program where we live in the park and we exist in the park. And the city council actually really gives us dollars as well because they also like the numbers that we are putting and they like the tenor of what we're doing. So just when you're thinking outside the box as far as finances, also think of like the actual institutions.
Yeah, absolutely. The city for us, the city was a big part. The mayor was a big part of getting our program off the ground. He was very supportive from the beginning because he was supportive of my daughter. I mean, we happen to be neighbors. So I was like, he knew my daughter from, she was little. And so when we started this whole rowing journey, we got the city involved. The park where we row at is a county park. So when we got new boats, we would do a boat naming ceremony, and we invited all the county officials. The last one we did, we invited all the county officials came, the county supervisor came, the ex-mayor came, the current mayor came, we had a congressman that came, so just don't limit yourself just to the rowing community. I would say just anybody that is supportive of you and your mission and what you're trying to accomplish, invite them in. Whether it's a boathouse or it's, you're getting a new boat or whatever, make it a big deal, make it a celebration and invite them in so that they can see the impact that you're having on the community. Brannon, I think that's an awesome point to make because, that's where we got a lot of our support and a lot of our help was just making a big deal out of nothing. It might seem, small to you. Like, yeah, we got a new boat. All right, we got a new double. Well, you know what? We're going to celebrate that we got that new double, and the whole town is going to know we got that new double and what we're going to do with it. And we're going to invite everybody and let them know that this is what we're doing. And the county will appreciate that. Because they want their parks to be used. They have to justify spending all this money to have this aquatic center at their park, right? To have this dock at their park. So, if they have something tangible to show for it, they have pictures of, them standing next to the boat with, you're getting a new boat. They do put it on their Instagram. It's also good for them. And then they support the program. So, Brannon, that I completely stand with you on that and thinking out of the box and just bringing the community into your program in order to make your program grow.
Myrna, this is such a great discussion. We have 3 minutes left before our break, and I did want to maybe open it up to our audience for a question. If that's okay, unless Myrna.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I was just about to say, please, if you have any suggestions, any ideas, if any questions, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, Nick.
Yes, hi. A question for Brannon, actually. You mentioned that the masters in your club pay for the juniors. And I wondered if you've experienced any resistance around that because that's a struggle for us. And there's a lot of tension around that.
So that's a great question. And I get asked that quite a bit. And no, because at inception, I am very clear with my masters when they join of what our organizational goals are. And our organizational goals are, we are we are a community that fosters community. And we do that by removing boundaries and creating opportunities for youth. And so I'm very clear, if they are looking for that kind of environment, I have such great contacts at Boathouse Row. I will send them there. Now, I will say a lot of my friends and colleagues and coaches on Boathouse Row, that is a huge problem that they deal with. But remember, I grew up in the sport. So being 14, 15, 16, 23, 27, I've really intimately learned the boathouse structure, and I instinctively created a way to make sure that culture did not exist in our organization.
So
Thank you.
creating the culture from the get-go. These are the expectations, right? Michael, you have your hand up.
Yes, another question for Brandon. Has being a for-profit hurt you on applying for grants? Because I always see the question, are you a nonprofit? And I'm assuming that if you aren't, that's going to hurt you. So I'm just curious as to the benefits versus the disadvantages of being for-profit versus non-for-profit.
That's another good question. You guys are really grilling me today. So yes, I will say it absolutely did hurt me in the first 5 to 7 years. It is now one of the biggest feathers in our cap by the time we got to year 10, because I started thinking outside the box as far as finances. So there's two Black sororities, a Black fraternity that gives us a very great donation. I started really leaning in on my community partners. And then I will say USRowing, and then the rowing, once we started becoming a solution and an example, now people actually are starting to donate and we are getting grants, but I have to be very clear that we are a for-profit entity and it does preclude me from certain dollars 1,000%.
Okay.
All right. Myrna, I think we are going to have to wrap up this discussion here. Brannon, Lucianna, Jewoo, thank you all for your time and your expertise. If there are any questions that are that we didn't get to, please put them in the chat so that we can pass them along to our panelists. We are going to go ahead and take a little break here before we have our next panel session. So I'm going to share my screen. It'll just say we're back by 2:15. So go and take a few minutes for yourself. Really amazing so far, and we've got a great afternoon in front of us. So yeah, thanks again, and see you in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Hey, Deb, welcome. Hey, Ellen. We've got a few
Yeah.
minutes before we start our next session, but thanks for being here. Hey, Christine, how's it going? I think I saw Patrick on here as well, so cool. Yeah, Christine and Deb and Ellen, I'll just give you. So we had two sessions before this, pretty powerful sessions, and one was a keynote speaker, Kwabena Nixon, and he did some amazing like spoken word and got everybody like writing down like their truth, and it was really it was pretty powerful, and just finished up a panel with some of the folks in our community on starting programs and getting things kind of up and running, sort of off the ground. So, yeah, everyone, we kind of got our break halfway through, and then tuning in for the afternoon. Ellen, where are you tuning in from? Are you in
Oh,
Boston?
I'm home today.
Oh, okay.
Wednesday is my day away from the boathouse, so I'm not freezing to death at the moment, but I
Yeah.
usually am cold all day after I coach morning.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Molly, it
So
looks like you're tuning in from campus.
I am in between teaching, so I'm on
Nice.
Washou's campus in St. Louis.
Yeah. Awesome. The end of the semester must be coming up. Just a few weeks.
A couple more weeks. We only have 4 more classes, so students are starting to get very nervous about their grades.
Yeah, I imagine. All right, we're gonna give 3 more minutes. I guess in these next couple minutes, does anybody want to come off mute and give any response to the previous two sessions? Any feedback, any thoughts?
Kwabena was really like a spoken, like spoken word genius in a way. Like I really did feel a lot of what he was saying relates in so many aspects of our lives. So that was amazing. And then I always love hearing from coaches about how their programs just like continue to develop and like maybe where they started and the skills that they use, like even Brannon not being a 501c or like Lucianna just being very like continual and determined in her journey. And I feel like so many of you coaches are. Um, and spaces like these are able to provide an opportunity to like continue to learn from each other and hopefully meet someone new. There's so many people on this call, so definitely stay connected if you aren't.
Yeah, cool. All right, we'll give it another 30 seconds and then shift gears. Oh, I do have a quick logistical question. So during the previous panel, were you all able to see the four speakers, or were they not spotlighted for you?
Not spotlighted, but if you change your view in the upper right-hand corner, you can kind of get the speaker spotlighted.
Okay.
Like I have you
So
and Jess spotlighted right now. So
yeah, yep. So I okay, so only one was pinned. Yeah, that's good to know. So you all may need to pin them yourselves. I think we are able to spotlight single people at a time. So we'll try to keep up with the
I think we need to spotlight, like add spotlight is how you do it, I think.
Jenny, are
We're
you doing this?
experimenting
Then
over here.
let's this is perfect. Can you now
Yeah, we
spotlight
got
Christine,
Deb and
Deb, Christine, and Patrick?
okay.
Nice. I
So can
love that
everyone see
knowledge.
all five speakers? Right.
Yes,
Okay.
this is wonderful. Okay. Well, I guess Jenny, you can spotlight me for just a sec. I'm gonna kick this session off. Um,
Okay. Let me find you. Here we go. There you are.
There we go. Cool. All right. So welcome back, everybody. We have a really exciting and interesting panel ahead of us. I want to thank you all for your time. I know we've been on now for over 2 hours. We have a great afternoon ahead of us. The depth of knowledge of all things adaptive sports and adaptive rowing. We have just some really experienced individuals who we're going to be talking to about all things adaptive sports and rowing. So I want to first do a quick introduction. Today we have a couple folks from the Challenged Athletes Foundation, Christine Entwistle and Patrick Lawrence, who run the organization, and I've gotten to know them a little bit this year. Challenge Athletes Foundation is an incredible organization. You're going to hear about the work that they do and their passions and interests. But one thing that stuck out to me in one of our first meetings was learning that over 50% of the United States Paralympic team had been at some point funded by Challenged Athletes Foundation. Over half of our entire Paralympic team for the US had been funded by CAF. So they have huge reach, huge impact in adaptive sports. We're so excited to learn from them and continue to build our relationship here within the rowing community. So Christine and Patrick, I want to give a really warm welcome to you as folks who are coming into the rowing community. Welcome. Um, so we also closer to home, closer to and you all may know of Deb Ehrenberg. Deb is joining us as a panelist today as well. She's the Adaptive Programs Development Specialist. She has tons of experience working with adaptive rowing programs, helping them get started, supporting them, and just being an expert in adaptive rowing. And then we also have Ellen Minsner. So Ellen is a former world champion with over 25 years of coaching experience. She now serves on the World Rowing Para Working Group and is US Rowing's high performance director for para rowing. So when we were putting this session together, we really wanted to motivate all of you who are listening to think about how you yourselves can start to bring adaptive programming into your boathouses. And as Jewoo just spoke of in the previous panel, there are some unique challenges, there are some unique opportunities, but this group knows really well how to get things started. And so again, I when we were putting this session together, the idea of having the broad knowledge base from Challenged Athletes Foundation, having Deb and her huge amount of experience with adaptive sport, and then Ellen from the para and high performance perspective, really exciting. Now, moderating our session is Molly Moore. So, Molly is a multi sport adaptive athlete. She is a former national team rower, 2019 world champion in the women's pair. I've gotten to know Molly over the last couple years as part of the DEI committee. And Molly is also a professor of economics at Washington University, where she is currently tuning in from. So, Molly, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, but really want to thank you all for being here today.
Perfect. Thanks, Will, for my introduction and everybody else's. As mentioned, I am joining from WashU, so there are tons of micro econ textbooks behind me if anybody is interested in that after the call. But first, in addition to those introductions, I'd like to give all of our panelists an opportunity to further introduce yourself and talk maybe a little bit more specifically about what your role is and then your experience either with rowing or other sports. So since we're not in a line, since this is a Zoom panel, how about we start with Christine?
Okay, well, thank you. And before I get started, I also want to commend the previous panelists. There was such great conversation that happened in that last session. So my name is Christine Entwistle. I'm Executive Director of Challenged Athletes Foundation. We are an organization that has been in existence for over 30 years and with a mission to help people with physical disabilities participate in sports. For us, we look across all different age groups, across recreational up to elite athletes, across all different disabilities and 105 different sports. So our purview is very broad, and we try to bring sports into the lives of everyone that we can touch and support. For myself, I have a long career, longer than I wished it was, in event planning, and I came into adaptive athletics through events, and I worked in hospitality and then into planning sporting events. And for my experience, you first start in events and you think about accessibility, the basics of accessibility. And as you evolve into, say, the events that we do, you're thinking more about inclusion, and you're thinking more about, how do you really welcome someone in, and what do you share, and how do you convey that we're excited that you're here and we're ready for you. And so that's the approach that we bring. I'm a brand new rower. I did learn to row 2 years ago, and have caught the fire of the sport. So new to this sport and this group of experts, but have fallen in love. So thank you for welcoming me into rowing.
Thank you for being here. And the fact that you have experience at least working with people from 105 different sports and you've chosen to pursue rowing yourself makes us pretty happy. Continuing along with the Challenged Athletes Foundation, Patrick, if you want to go next.
Thank you, Molly. Excuse me. Patrick Lawrence. I'm Chief Programs Officer at Challenged Athletes Foundation. I've been with the organization for about 10 years in various parts of our programs department. And our programs department is really our athlete-facing aspect of CAF. We really put forth the grants that support athletes, the clinics, the community outreach. And so our team of 12 people across the United States gets to do a lot of the really fun stuff in interacting with those athletes that we support every day. We have, like I said, a fantastic team. We've got 5 in San Diego, 5 in Boise, Idaho, 1 in Northern California, 1 in New Jersey, and she kind of takes care of the northeast part of the country. Small but mighty staff, and we're just very thankful to have this opportunity to help with the growth of rowing, whether it be at the grassroots level or all the way up to the elite level. Part of my background was working as an athletic trainer with USA Volleyball. I did that off and on for about 12 years. So I've seen Paralympic sport at both the grassroots and at the elite level at the games. I was fortunate to go to the Rio and the Paris games. And so a lot of the things that I've seen in my time with that level of competition, I think have really leaned in or helped CAF lean into how can we start to fill some of those gaps. And so this is an exciting part of that. And we're looking forward to learning more from everyone else on the panel, hearing from those of you who are attending, and hopefully there's more things taking off in the future.
Thanks, Patrick. Deb, if you would like to go next.
Sure. Hi, I'm Deb Ehrenberg, and I'm talking to you from the seacoast area of southern Maine. I have been involved with adaptive rowing for over 35 years with Alden, Wintec, and helped develop some of the equipment for the first Paralympic Games. Most recently, I was the coordinator for the Freedom Rows program through USRowing, which was for injured vets, and I'm really excited. I was just flashing through all the pages of the attendees, and I haven't seen a lot of you in a long time, so it's really great to see a lot of familiar faces, and hope if anyone has questions about how to start programs that we don't reach today or equipment, please reach out.
Awesome. And last but not least, Ellen.
Yeah, sure. I'm Ellen Minsner. I'm the head coach of the Paralympic disciplines for USRowing. Started coaching the para program in 2013 and have taken the program through 3 games right now, through Rio, Tokyo, and Paris, and hopefully LA will be a big one for us. And so my role in the high performance space is developing athletes at the very top of the pipeline, but also recognizing that we need a lot of depth all the way through the pathway, from entry level to the sport and development. So I'm excited to be here and be able to personally thank Challenge Athlete Foundation, because I know personally the athletes that you've funded. I've written the letters of recommendation, and quite frankly, that is a really key aspect of how we get athletes through that pipeline, because it takes a certain amount of experience and speed to get funding at the very top level. So you guys provide very critical resources to help move athletes along the pathway. So I just want to say thank you to you guys.
Yeah, echoing that a little bit, I did not get a grant from the Challenge Athletes Foundation, but many of my teammates have. And I always tell people one of the most important things about, important people, I would say, in adaptive sport is not only those that are able to help fund and support, but the engineers who you are basically helping us get equipment, because there's so much specialized equipment, just as Deb said, helping to create that equipment is such an important role here. Along with that, I was wondering if we could go around and try to give the audience a sense of the range of adaptive athletes, what that includes, and who you are all working with, where they're coming from, to try to just get a sense of that range. If we want to go in the same order.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question, and I'm gonna tag team with Patrick because I think he can speak so knowledgeable to the different disabilities. But I wanted to start with a comment on just understanding that everybody's in a different place with their disability, from that emotional and mental and duration often aspect. And so, there are so many different type of people and so many different spots on their journey. You may be working with someone who was born with a disability and has been trying sports their whole life, right? Or you could be introduced in your environment with someone who was a competitive athlete, and then a circumstance in life, they had an illness or an injury, and now they're trying to get back to sport with this new version of their body. So some people who are newly disabled, have different comfort levels with how much of their disability they show. We often see early on, individuals not really showing their prosthetic, and years later, that is a point of pride, and that is an empowering part of their life. So, I'll pass it to Patrick now to kind of talk about the disabilities, but just when you think about who you're working with, everybody's so different in where they're coming from mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. She covered a lot. We have a really big tent. Our kind of community spans most of the eligible disabilities under the IPC guidelines. And so that's really kind of how we determine eligibility for CAF support. As she said, we get people from all walks of life, socioeconomic classes, different sporting interests, backgrounds. Our goal really is to, and I think a goal for any of you would be meet people where they are. You're going to get people who have been told no a lot due to having a disability. And so if they meet that one other athlete who has a disability, or they meet that one coach who's willing to look at the situation and say, you know what, I think we can make something work. We can tweak this. We can adjust. That opens a lot of doors for people that have been closed to them in the past. So with any of you thinking about bringing on adaptive athletes into your rowing programs, that would be the first thing, is just to always have a very open mind and start reaching out to other people, because chances are someone's done something similar, if not the same, in the past, or it's just one more step forward on the progression of what they've already done to help get that person active and involved, and really opening up a lot of new pathways for them.
I think that's great. And thinking about like the scope, I think a lot personally about the congenital versus acquired range of adaptive athletes, as I know the coaching style might differ as well with that. With this huge range, Deb, I'm hoping that you maybe could talk a little bit about the classification process also, and the difference between maybe a competitive para athlete versus another adaptive athlete.
Sure, and I'll probably start with just kind of defining the difference between adaptive and para. So a para athlete would be someone who has a verifiable and a permanent physical impairment, including visual impairments. World Rowing recognizes about 7 different eligible areas of impairments, but that doesn't mean that if someone doesn't have one of those, that they can't join us and row, and we would refer to them as perhaps an athlete who's an adaptive athlete as opposed to a para athlete. In the para world, there are kind of like 3 areas that we compete in. They're referred to as PR1, PR2, and PR3. PR1 and PR2 use fixed seats. PR3 use the sliding seat. And the definition of PR1 would be they're primarily using arms and shoulders only. PR2 would be using a fixed seat and would be using trunk and arms, and PR3 would be the ability to use arms, trunk, and legs, all 3 areas. So going back to what Patrick and Christine have already said, is you may very well have some athletes that are rowing in your traditional rowing programs that might have, for instance, a club foot impairment, and it might be something you never ever saw before, or they might have a spinal cord injury that you just didn't know about, and they might already be doing what they're doing. But we do have a classification process, and you can get on USRowing and look at that para classification process, and it's pretty simple in that they upload their medical documentation. It's reviewed by our chief classifier, and then we arrange a session with a couple of classifiers. It takes about an hour, and if we do find they're eligible, we'll place them in a sport class, and Ellen takes it from there and gets them hopefully involved with the rest of the para program. But I just have to encourage you that just because someone isn't eligible for a para classification, I'd still like you to think that you could include it. Anytime we improve our infrastructure for any para rowers or people with impairments, it just improves rowing situation for everybody at a club. And that goes for the buildings, the walkways, access to water, our board members and officers of our rowing clubs, getting them to kind of open their minds to, how can we be more inclusive and have a more diverse population in our rowing clubs. And we only have a very short amount of time, and this is a subject I could talk on for hours and hours, but I'll try to close it right there.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just follow up with what Deb was saying. Part of the job or the role that I see for myself is that the high performance end of things really relies on the ability for people to enter the pathway, mainly through competitions, which I think is really exciting. And I think you see tremendous growth in inclusion events, and that's maybe a broader category that sometimes includes some of the non-Paralympic disciplines that Deb mentioned, but still is a way to really showcase how we are trying to embrace that aspect of the sport. And for me, it's a great way to introduce a lot of people at kind of a grassroots level. And then we sort of can evaluate a little bit better who is interested in being more competitive, who has the ability to be more competitive and maybe come out for a national team. And I think that's tremendously important because, you know, I think regattas are really stepping up their interest in and their ability to serve a wider range of people. I was really excited to see Head of the Charles having, like, with such limited parking space this year, there's a whole area designated for parking, handicap parking, whether it be for coaches or for the athletes. So I think people are really seeing the real value in that, and when that happens, we see growth. I think Head of the Charles had a record number of entries this year. They had to turn some people away, fielding 22 inclusion doubles just at the Head of the Charles. And I know Head of the Hooch, Head of the Schuylkill, a few others are really embracing that. And I think that's really exciting when we see people really getting involved in competition. That's where I get excited, because I believe all of us enjoy competing just as a way to maybe see our own progress, even if you're not a national team athlete. I'm excited with the growth of inclusion and para events. Even at youth nationals, we're getting to the point where we have full 5 and 6 boat finals at youth nationals and inclusion doubles and things like that. So I'm very excited about how many people are coming out for our events, and you know, how we can better support them to gain the experience they would need to be on a national team one day.
It's exciting to hear about the growth in youth events. I wasn't even aware of that. And I think speaks to these synergistic goals of trying to increase the base of all adaptive athletes and then also trying to build the high performance pipeline. They really do tie in together. So maybe starting with that first one of just growing the base. I'm curious if the panelists could talk about the common, or at least the perceived, barriers to starting an adaptive program at a club, and if you have any advice, like practical advice for doing so.
Well, I'll share a couple thoughts, and I know the rest of the panel has a lot to share as well. You know, it was, I think in the previous session, again, it was Brannon who mentioned sometimes people don't care as much about what you know, but they know you care. And I think that taking that step to want to build inclusion, I think also, you know, it can take a while. I think one of the most important things is inviting people into the conversation. I think there's this fear of we have to go off into the corner, make sure everything's accessible, have thought through every scenario. The athletes, for us at CAF, it's the voice of the athlete. Bring the voice, bring the person to the table that has a perspective and an opinion that can be of such tremendous value. Invite them. Go through the boathouse, go through the equipment, think about how you get onto the water, ask them about their specific needs. So I think bringing the voice of the athlete, bringing a partner into the conversation, they're as invested as much as we are in making the world more inclusive, right? For sure. So that would be one of the first bits of advice I'd have.
I just want to jump on that because I totally agree. Sometimes that is it may be a smaller approach or a more individualized approach, but in some ways that's equally as important, or maybe more important than like starting a program and thinking about all of those things first. I agree. Whether we just want to make sure what we already have is welcoming and inclusive to as many people as possible. Now, maybe not every program can serve someone with a high-level spinal cord injury, but certainly there are lots of ways we can make what we already do more inclusive and welcoming, and figure out how to serve the individuals who may want to participate or that might be in our immediate community, rather than thinking in the abstract about start the program and then fill it. So I really echo what Christine says, like figure out how to do what we do, just slightly better, slightly more inclusive, slightly more tailored to a specific individual or a few individuals.
I totally agree with what Ellen's saying. often that's the one-to-one. You have one athlete and one advocate, and you've got an adaptive rowing program. And one of the challenges, I think, people think that this is very, we're going to have to get all this extra equipment. The really cool thing about rowing is we have ergs that can be adapted. We have adaptive tools that we can use in the boats, pontoons. There are things that you already have in the boathouse that can be used to start out an adaptive program, and you don't have to think that the financial burden is going to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So just chiming in with
One more
what
comment. I also think that one of the simplest things clubs can do is just put on their website or somewhere in their communications a small form for request for accommodation. What a great way to find out if anyone on your mailing list is looking for some type of accommodation. And that doesn't mean that you have to be obligated to meet every single request, but at least you could find out who in your community is curious, like, oh, a request for accommodation. What does that look like? And then that starts that dialogue that Christine was talking about. And I think that that's pretty simple. And I would love to see, I think there's a few examples of clubs who do have that. And I'd love to see more. It's real simple, Google form, Jot form, whatever. And then you find out what are people curious about in your community about your rowing club.
I think also the reaching out to your own membership, because people often have experience from other areas of their life. Perhaps they're part of a affinity group at their corporation, right? Or they have worked with athletes with disabilities in the past and would be willing to give the time or go the extra steps in a new circumstance. So I think that, the burden isn't always on the leaders and the specific coaches, and it can come from within the membership as well.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things that we see more generally within the community of athletes that we serve is transportation tends to be a big barrier to participation, as are finances. And that's why we exist, honestly. It was to help remove some of those barriers. So in thinking about how to approach individuals, you may have to take the ergs to them versus them coming to you. So if there's outreach programs, there's things like that where you can get out there and get people exposed to the sport in a way that kind of meets where they are with their comfort level. That might start to recruit some people who then have more of an interest and an ability to actually go to the boathouse and see it from that perspective. So just something to think about as you're thinking about some of the barriers that exist for some of the individuals with disabilities.
Yeah, these are all really interesting comments. And one, I just want to make a plug for coaches out there. If you do have like an individual that you've been talking to, since I do think these one-on-one conversations are really important, that's how you learn what the person might need. That is what the Challenged Athletes Foundation might be for. So if you have an individual with a need, please look into their grants if that is what the barrier is to stopping you is financial. And then Patrick, you were starting to talk about these community connections and outreach, and that kind of leads perfectly into the next question that I was hoping to ask is do you think the important connections in a community to have in order to best support adaptive athletes? Are there specific types of clubs or organizations, and what is the value of those connections?
Yeah, I think broadly it's if you're in a community where there already is some adaptive sport programming that exists, that's great because there's already kind of a database there. Maybe they just haven't yet been exposed to rowing. So I think that's a good place to start. Independent of that, we talked a little bit a week ago. We kind of all met before. Is you got to find some champions. You have to find some people who have a vested interest in having people who have a disability find a way to become active, kind of open up that world for them, because a lot of folks who've grown up with a disability or have acquired one don't always realize that an active life is still very much possible for them, or it's a first exposure to that. And so with that, in my background tends to be a little bit more on the medical side, but it's PTs and OTs and people who are healthcare providers who see both sides of the coin. They see a post-clinical opportunity for people. And so if you can get buy-in from people and some of the rehabilitation hospitals and centers, things like that, as a referral source, it doesn't have to be a hard chase. It's just a matter of, hey, we've got some rowing programs. would you put these up in your clinic and with your social workers who are working on discharge? It's not always the exact right time to approach that subject, but if people know there's resources and there's opportunities out there for them, then when the timing is right, or it makes sense, or they find that person who is a rower and has a disability, and they reach out to that person, then there's more of a open landscape there for them they might have thought otherwise.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
would just add that with the adaptive sports organizations, especially, you'll find many of them cover multiple sports, right? And we find that when we do sports experience or multi-sport clinics, right? Like give the chance to try something else, even if it's, every ASO is going to be a little bit different, but even to bring your concept, your ergs to participate and let someone try during a multi-sport day. That's perhaps a way to introduce to the sport. So we find that athletes, once they're active, they want to try a lot of different things. Like what am I capable of? What can I do with my disability? Where can I improve? What sports are complementary to each other, seasonally even? And so I think it's really, really great to get in a situation where you can allow people to try rowing within the environment of other sports as well.
Deb or Ellen, do you have any general thoughts to what organizations?
I was just going to mention, because of my work with injured veterans, that in all communities there are clinics and VA hospitals that not only might provide a workout space where you could bring ergs or do an information center, but with that you will have visual and outpatient physical therapists who can actually support your work. So don't always think that you have to, a new program, we have to add new coaches. With very minimal coaching staff, you could go out and have the support from some of those therapists and run clinics with 20 or 30 vets at some of these VA hospitals.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that being a community partner, most people may or may not know, like for the fixed seat categories, the PR1 and PR2, a lot of them mainly come as crossover athletes from other sports. So those are athletes with like a higher level mobility impairments, and it's sometimes trickier to find those athletes because I can't go to a local high school or college program and recruit them and identify them. So we have an informal, I won't call it a partnership, but a good relationship in Boston with the Bionic Project. They do a 5K. We'd had some ergs at their 5K race. Many times for the fixed seat athletes, which, by the way, we're actively recruiting for LA 2028. We have a few, but we want more. They mainly come through ergometer competitions or even CrossFit. CrossFit is a really growing sport. They have adaptive components to that, and their ergometer is kind of built in there. So we really have to spread that net far and wide to identify athletes, because they may not already have rowing as their primary sport when thinking about becoming a competitive athlete or maybe a Paralympian. So that's an area where we really rely on Challenge Athlete, Bionic Project, Adaptive Sport New England, Angel City Sports, Adaptive Training Foundation, all of these sort of partners that I reach out to just on a recruiting basis to see if they have athletes who would like to continue on our pathway. So that's a really important piece of that ergometer component, because crossover athletes might already use it for training, and it's a great way to enter the pathway.
As my other sport is CrossFit, that definitely resonates with me. I am on the erg more than I want to be as a former rower, staring at that screen while doing CrossFit. But Ellen, I'm hoping that this question is going to be specific to you. Expand a little bit, since you're talking about maybe the pipeline for getting people to the high performance level. Since you mentioned LA 2028 and getting rowing on the home ground, I'm wondering if you can speak to the vision of US Rowing to build the adaptive pipeline and make us the best for 2028, and explicitly if there anything all the coaches on this call can do to help support the national team coming
Sure.
up.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it has to go along the lines of the different sport classes. So the PR3 sport class, the top athletes are coming from high school and collegiate programs where they are discovering rowing first, and then maybe they discover their Paralympic eligibility, whether it be club foot or visual impairment or things like that. So our top athletes that are preparing for LA 2028 in that category right now are collegiate athletes or recently athletes who have recently graduated from collegiate programs. So collegiate coaches just need to know, like, who is restricted from running in your program, because that could be an indication that they may have an eligible impairment. So I have a broad range of contact with collegiate coaches. Collegiate para rowing is actually becoming a little bit more on the scene. Just working with the Connect Cup right now to offer a whole host of para events, not just PR3, but additional ones. But PR3 have the deepest pipeline because of how deep our high school and collegiate programs already are, and that athletes are competing there. So how do we develop and find athletes for PR1, PR2? We have started to offer development camps leading into San Diego Crew Classic, as well as the Canadian Henley, so 2 different points in the year. Somewhat a little bit more catered to that fixed seat athlete. We identify them, as I said, through ergometer competitions, and that's kind of the main way. So there's not really yet a full collegiate pipeline there, but we do have like a couple of athletes now in the fixed seat category. We've got an athlete at Cal Berkeley, an athlete at University of Pittsburgh, and a handful of others that are fixed seat collegiate athletes looking to become more competitive. And I think that is super exciting. And that's kind of the main way we do that. The World Championships at the U23 level have just added a PR3 single, which is really exciting. So that will be a separate trial. That's part of the U23 selection procedures. And it's my hope that World Rowing continues to expand that at the U23 level and then offer PR1 and PR2 singles there as well, because I think without those intermediary steps leading to an Olympic Games, it's pretty hard to go from crossover athlete to Olympic trials without those intermediary steps. So I really look forward to working with a lot of the domestic regattas to figure out what makes sense for their offerings, how to support athletes that want to be competitive in those athletes, and that's kind of where the dialogue is right now.
It's so exciting. Even I only haven't been competing for a couple of years, and hearing the fact that it's like now more in college and it's in youth for adaptive athletes is so exciting for me. We have about 8 minutes left, and we definitely want to open this for the audience questions. If anybody has a question they would like to come off mute or put it in the chat, you are more than welcome. Liz, yeah.
Thank you very much for this panel. I think it's very exciting for what's ahead, and I think we really have some stars on the panel. My question is, how do we clone people like Ellen and Deb so that we have more leadership throughout the United States, and we have coaches and, as you call them, champions throughout our rowing community and beyond?
I'll take that question briefly. I know Deb has been much more involved in the coach education side of things, and she can kind of speak to what US Rowing offers there. But I think, Liz, the reality is some of it is pretty hands-on, and we do try and expand our coaching opportunities. That's why one of the reasons I'm excited about that U23 single is, yes, it's only one athlete, but it's also a way for a coach to experience international competition with their athlete. But at our camps, we do try and open up any athlete that's invited. We do try and reach out to their coach so that their coach can accompany them at that camp and see kind of hands-on how we work with athletes, because I think there's no cookie cutter. There's no way to coach the PR1 athlete specifically. You have to work with your PR1 athlete. There's no way to coach the PR2 athlete. I mean, other than some basic setups there, but I think the real coach education comes from inviting coaches in to see what we do either at the Boston Training Center, which is where I'm based and where the para team is based, and really just watching and observing so coaches can have a comfort level applying what they learn at some of the coach education things, because that's the reality when we talk about maybe some barriers. There is that sort of like, we of course all want to first do no harm, right? And as coaches, if we're fearful of taking that step to work with someone with a disability, I started way back in the day at CRI when they were still out of that shack called the Proctor Boathouse. And I had no idea what I was doing. I think I used a lot of duct tape. I think I did a lot of dangerous things. But I learned a lot and took some risks. And I think seeing other coaches in that mode of just working with the athletes gives a huge comfort level. So I would extend that invitation. And I think we're going to do even more of that with our upcoming development camps, and always looking to bring people into the fold so they can see what we do firsthand. So that's, I think, one way to help bring coaches along and give them the confidence to work with athletes.
US Rowing also offers a free adaptive coaching course. So anyone can take that. It's very broad, covers many, many different areas of adaptive rowing. And I would recommend that you go through it. It's a good jumping off spot. And I go back to what Kristen said, is look at your membership, because people think I've never worked with anyone with a physical impairment. I don't know what to do. I don't have any certification in working with these athletes, and it's not necessary. You can learn on the job, safety first, but I think after taking the course and following perhaps with a coach in the club, you might find that you have some treasures within your own membership that can take this on. It would become a passion of theirs.
That's great. Are there any other questions from the audience?
I just would like to give a shout out in the comments there from, I think it was Pamela, reminding me that American Collegiate Rowing has adaptive events at the national championships, which is amazing. I think more and more we're seeing that, adding it to the points trophy. That's always incentivizing people. So really hats off to those regattas that are already doing that. And thanks for the mention, Pamela.
Well, it looks like we're about at time anyway. So before I let Will wrap up, just kind of a summary from some of the things that I either learned or found really exciting on this conversation. Um, while I came into this thinking like, how do we start adaptive programs? I think what comes out of all of this conversation is it doesn't have to be a program. They're having this form on your website, I think is a great idea, or even beyond that, putting something on your website saying, we welcome adaptive athletes, like come have a conversation with us, because somebody that's not in your membership might just be interested in browsing on the website. Because just as Ellen said, there's no cookie cutter to any of these solutions. It's probably almost always going to be this one-on-one conversation with athletes to get started small rather than necessarily needing a full program. And on either of these, I think there are tons of resources from US Rowing, the coaches education. I know in the past we've put together documents on kind of things to do to start programs also. So will probably know a lot more about that, but there is like a huge amount of resources for these questions.
I'll also make one plug. I run kind of an open monthly Zoom meeting for para coaches. It's really, I have many of our high performance coaches on that call, but it's really for club coaches to kind of have a dialogue and find out what we're learning, what we're talking about, and would love to have more people on that call. I think there's a few people on the screen on this call right now that are joining that call, but it'd be fun to have even more, because there's a little chance for you to kind of ask some questions of our high performance coaches a little bit directly, or figure out what's going on in your program. But we just came off of a really exciting camp out at Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center, and I learned a lot. I mean, I've been in this for I don't know how long. And I feel like I learned so much just from being at that camp. It was really tremendous. And how do we bring that knowledge out to the masses? Some key nuggets to take away. So that call is the last Wednesday of every month at 12:30. I think we're on for the Thanksgiving week. I'll have to double check that, but uh, I can try. Yeah, maybe Jenny is on the call. I can get that link out to the call participants, and people can join. And it's really just a general rehash of what the national team and development camp coaches are talking about, but also like ways to have athletes who have coaches who may have an athlete that they're trying to work with get a little bit of troubleshooting directly from that. But I'll share that link maybe to all the participants after this via email. Oh, thanks, Jess.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Molly. Thank you, Ellen, Christine, Patrick, and Deb. Great to hear all of your experience. Molly, thanks for such a great focused conversation. And I think this was really valuable for the entire community. Liz, I want to quickly, so we're going to shift gears now. Before we shift gears though, Liz, I thought your question on like, how do we clone coaches? I think that is just such a important question. I did want to speak on the U.S. rowing front. Like, we have a grants program, and the type of programming that we were just talking about is kind of exactly the type of programming that we at US Rowing are looking to support financially. So I think that there's a financial, we're putting our money where our mouth is here on the financial support of organizations. We want to see the pipeline grow. We want to see adaptive rowing grow. And so we're supporting that on the grants side of things. And then also with scholarships to different opportunities. We want to see coaches who are coaching adaptive programs applying for different opportunities because we want to support them in those efforts. So I think the question of how do we clone coaches, my response is I hope we're talking to a bunch of future, Deb and Ellen clones right now on this call. So I appreciate that question. I think that's it's a really great question, and I hope that this the words from the panel are really inspiring for all of you to think about, like, I can maybe do this. I can try to work on this and try to make something happen at my program. So yeah, appreciate that question. Really appreciate all the panelists and yeah, thank you all so much. All right, so let's go ahead. We will remove the spotlights from this panel. We are going to shift gears into our final presentation for the day. Joining us, excuse me, is Jillian Lochran from the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport. I've gotten to know Jillian over the last couple years. Her work is the work that they do at the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport is really awesome, and it's really interesting, and I think it ties in well, like right at the end of the session of today's session. It really it always has a new and interesting perspective. So Jillian, I want to thank you for being here. I've heard your work, and I know that it's helped coaches and leaders all across the country create healing centered environments that affirm identity and support growth. So Jillian, again, thanks for joining us, and I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Will. Our team always says this, and I'm not just saying this to be nice. We love working with the rowing community. We find that the coaches and the folks that are coming from the rowing community are so inquisitive. They're so humble. Everyone is always eager to learn. And so it's just a privilege. Thank you for inviting me back. Today, we are going to be talking about something that relates to being healing centered, but also relates to inclusion. And we're going to be talking about girls. How do we get them into and how do we keep them in sport? So that's our plan for today. One thing you should know, when you're with the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport, there's no forced fun. So if anything I ask of you is not for you, I know it has been a long block of time. So I appreciate you staying zoned in with me. But if I ask you to do something and it's not for you, please feel free to tap out. I also know your life doesn't stop because you're here. So if you need to take a call, step out, please do so. And the last one is please just engage. Stop me, ask questions, share your expertise. I want this to be as perfect for all of you as possible. So if that sounds okay to everybody, why don't we dig in? Sound good? Love the head nods. Appreciate you. So if you haven't met us before, as Will said, we're the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sport, and we believe that all young people deserve healing-centered spaces, and we believe that sport is uniquely suited to create those spaces. We train, we consult, and we bring people together around that mission. And part of that is looking at the different lenses when we're talking about implicit bias and how it's been built systemically into sport. And with girls, female identifying young people, trans girls, gender nonconforming young people, this is a conversation that we aren't having enough of. And so I'm really glad to be here today to talk about that. And so here are our goals. So it's a short session, so we're going to try to get through as quickly and as deeply as we can. But we want to review some of the barriers that are keeping girls from sport, explore some strategies for engaging and retaining girls in sport, and then discuss what girl-centric spaces look and feel like. Because it's one thing to design programming and implement it in a certain way, but what do the physical spaces around us look like? What are the people around us doing? We also have to evaluate that. So if you've been with us before, you know we're always going to start with a warm-up. So what I'm going to ask you to do is if you have a phone, or you can do this on your computer screen, you're going to scan that QR code and it's going to take you to a Menti. If you've never done a Menti before, it's an anonymous survey or anonymous ability to answer a question. And we're just going to ask some questions about girls, specifically girls in sport. So you can use the QR code or you can go to menti.com and it's going to ask you for a code, and that code is right there on the screen. And so we're going to put a little twist on it because I think you've been seated watching some speakers for a while. So if it's a true or false game, so if you get it correct when I reveal the answer, I'm going to ask you to do your favorite upper body stretch. So that can be anything you like, arms, neck, you name it. And if you got it wrong, I'm going to ask you to, what do I not love? I'd say a burpee, but that's not cool. So we're just going to do air punches if we got it wrong. So any stretch of your choice if you got it right, and air punches if you got it wrong because we're frustrated that we got it wrong. Sound good? Are we ready? The first question is up there. So I am going to get us teed up for this. All right. Oh, we are split. We are split down the middle for question one. I'm going to give about 10 more seconds for question one. The fact is that 2 out of 3 girls between the ages of 6 and 12 participate in sport. We are split straight down the middle. Holy cow. All right, 3 more seconds. Oh, true. True's taking it. All right. So I was a little unfair in this one. It is actually 1 out of 3 girls. So it's close, but 1 out of 3 girls participate in sport between the ages of 6 and 12. So we are not doing a great job. So if you said that this was false, favorite arm stretch, get yourself maybe like some arm swings, anything you want. And if you got it wrong, just, take your frustration out on the screen, or you can pretend you're hitting me. That's okay. I'll take it. All right. Question 2. Annually, boys get over 1 million more sport opportunities than girls do. Coming in hot with the trues. I see you, whoever put false. Appreciate you going against the grain. 27. Yep. Yeah, we have some experts here. Absolutely. It is true. It's around 1.15 million or so was the last time that they tracked it. More opportunities than girls. Question 3. Girls who play sports suffer 10% less depression than girls who do not. True. True. People are really, you believe in the power of sport. I love you already, all of you. So this one, we're giving 5 more seconds. Let's see where we shake out. 28-7. So my friends in false, you're correct on a little bit of a technicality. It's about 20%. So girls that participate in sports suffer 20% less depression than girls who don't. That study came out of the Women's Sports Foundation post-COVID. Girls and rates of mental health were significantly higher in positive ways for girls that were participating in sports during the pandemic. 25% of teen girls are not actively participating in sports. True or false? This is fun. I like watching this. This is fun. False is winning out. We're closer to the middle on this one. Let's see. Let's see where we land. False is correct. It's about 40%. So 40% of teen girls are actually not actively participating in sport. When girls see themselves represented, retention improves 33%. What do we think? Some people I feel like are probably in the false, like she's just going to switch the number on me again. True, you are right. When girls see themselves represented, 33% improvement in retention. And then our last one here, 69% of women who played sports held at least one formal leadership role outside of the family unit. Yep, that's right. Absolutely. So it's true. So get your last stretch in, because we're going to get into the slides, and I want to make sure we've moved a little bit, because if you've met with the center before, you know we believe that movement is a key to wellness and regulation. And so get that stretch in. We're going to get going. All right. Thank you for playing that game with me. We play that game for a few reasons. One, I wanted to just see kind of where we were. Let me fix that screen for you. But also, we believe at the center that we have to move and connect to do the really good work. We have to feel safe. And part of the ways that we begin to feel safe is by connecting with those around us and moving our bodies. And so that's why we wanted to start there. So what we know as we dig in, a lot of the research today comes from the Women's Sports Foundation and Nike, and also the Tucker Center for Girls and Women. But what that research tells us is that girls want to feel athletic. They want to reach goals. They want to build a team, and they want to compete. And so all of the kind of rhetoric out there that girls aren't interested in those things is false. Sport doesn't scare them. The things that make up sport are not things that they don't want to engage in. It's actually the opposite. We also know that there are unique barriers that girls face when it comes to sport. Anyone want to share some of the ones that you know about? What do you think some unique barriers are? We can talk about them some more in a little bit. But can anyone think of one? And you can pop it in the chat. Absolutely. Menstrual cycle. Responsibilities for younger siblings? Sure. Let's get one more. Family resistance, absolutely, or stigma. Neurodiversity, body shaming, yes, and body confidence, self-esteem, non-hazing from boys, yes. Stereotypes in the media, all of the above, absolutely. So, oops, sorry, that went too fast. Coaches, the last piece that we know is that coaches have a unique opportunity to design girl-centric spaces that will lead to their own well-being and will retain them. And so that's our goal today, is to build those spaces, or at least talk about building those spaces. So how do we do it? We're going to go through pretty quickly today. I don't want you to panic that you're not going to be able to get all of the good stuff. So I'm going to point you to another QR code, but it's going to take you to the Coaching Girls Guide that we wrote in partnership with Nike. So everything that we're talking about today is in this guide, and it's a free, accessible resource for you to dig into it whenever you want. So what we know, that guide is based off of the research that I mentioned before by the Women's Sports Foundation and Nike. And all of the research that they did was targeting one goal. They wanted to know what girls themselves wanted from sport. If they could design sport, what would it look like? And what came out of that conversation from the research were 4 big themes. And so the next part of our journey is really just to talk about those themes and think about some strategies within each one. Because we know that sport is one of the best, if not the best ways for young people to develop skills and increase their ability to succeed in life and just be physically and mentally well. So why not, right? The first one is that we need to create connection. It's not, people think often that girls join sports because they want to be on a team or they want to have a uniform, or there's all these ideas around it. All they care about is friendship. And what the research tells us is yes, that's true, but it's not the only reason. It's actually the entryway. And so, what we know about girls is that the opportunity to connect with teammates and connect with their coaches are the highest predictor of enjoyment and continued engagement in sport. They need to feel safe to do the other things, to take the risks, to build the skills, to engage in competition. Boys compete to connect. We can throw a ball out in a gymnasium and a bunch of boys will run out and just start playing. Girls connect to compete. And so here's some basic things. I'm sure you do a ton of them already, but some things to think about when we're thinking about connection. The first is, as simple as it sounds, learning names. And these are names that are either their choice or the pronunciation, if it's difficult, or admitting to them that you're trying to learn names. It can be nicknames, but this goes along with preferred pronouns, but identifying young people the way they want to be identified and remembering them. The next thing we can do is create circles, opportunities to share in circles. Circles are magic. Most people, when I ask the question, why are circles magic? They'll say because it's equalizing, it never ends, everybody has the same stake in it. And all of those things are true, which is amazing. It's also that they're psychologically safe. If we were all standing in a circle, no one would be able to sneak up behind me without one of you letting me know. So it's that same science of when you're sitting in a restaurant and someone wants the seat against the wall. It's the exact same science. And so if we are able to utilize circles, it puts all of those things into play. It allows girls to open their minds to what you're actively saying and not being so stressed that they can't focus on that. And then the last piece, and I would say if I had to pick one of these, asking questions is one of the most important. And this is not just asking questions to learn about them or not just asking questions about how they feel about something, but asking questions across the board. How do they want to engage? How am I doing as a coach? Allowing them opportunities to give meaningful contribution. Because what we've learned is that when girls can activate their thinking brain, so the parts of the brain that do the complex functions, when they can be in charge of that aspect of the learning, they want to engage more. They want to stay. So if you allow them the opportunity to ask, why do you hold your oar at that angle? Or why are we doing this drill first? And you open the space to allow them to participate in the learning, they will absolutely engage with you more. Anybody have any cool strategies that they want to share about building connections from their programs? I know there's some gems in this audience. Yes, please, Flo. Did you mean to raise your hand? If you did mean to raise your hand, feel free to come off mute and share.
I did. Just trying to get off of mute. So
Gotcha.
I coach middle girls, and even though we have our season is 12 weeks, every session I've been doing icebreakers with them. So we always start in a circle. Well, they do their dynamic warm up, but our icebreakers are in a circle. But each time they're paired up with a different person. And I was really excited about this because our last practice, they actually said, like, one of the things that the first girl that shared was that she felt like she made a lot of friends this season. So doing those icebreakers, even though, they've seen each other 3 times a week for 12 weeks, still making sure that they connect outside of the boat has been really helpful.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Giving them a prompt so that they connect on other issues is a great entry point for them to meet somebody else and connect with them. We've seen in sport, there are kids who are naturally gifted athletically, and then there are some kids that are not, and they need to work a bit harder. And often that there alone and the differences in skill can make them feel like they can't engage in the same ways as if they were equally skilled. And so if you're giving them an opportunity to share something, you might find out we love the same musical artist, or we hate the same subject in school, and giving them that chance to connect with one another is awesome. Kathleen shared in the chat mentorship between experienced and novice girls. There's so much power in that, not just because the novice girls are creating a relationship with these veteran young people, but the mentors are also getting the opportunity to lead and give a meaningful contribution back to the program. They're able to share the culture, they're able to share what's great about it, they're able to engage girls in coming back. So not just the coach learning about them, but their peers are as well. Myrna, I love this. My girls loved making TikTok videos and stopping for ice cream on the way back from the regatta on the bus. Yeah, we call this informal time. So how are we using the times that are not on the field, the pitch, the water? How are we using those moments to create space for those young people to build relationships? These are awesome. All right, so once they've connected, once they've had that opportunity, and connection has to keep going. So as Flo said, it's every practice, every engagement, they're doing these icebreakers. Once we're doing that, it becomes predictable for them. And at the center, if you've been with us before, we focus a lot on the brain and what stress does to our ability to function. And what we know about connection is that it allows for our stress response to come down. And when we're predictable and we are doing things in routine that our young people know, they don't have to worry about what to expect. And so if you're doing icebreakers every program, they know I'm coming in, there's going to be an icebreaker. They are not worried about what they're walking into. They feel control over that. And it helps their stress response come down. All right, so we're connected. The next thing girls want to do is they want to compete. It's a misconception that girls don't want to get down and dirty or all of the other terms that we've called competitiveness. Girls want all of that. And so there are things that we can do to create that space for girls. We can create a competitive culture. We can mix up practices so that girls have the chance to compete against themselves, personal records, ways that we're tracking them as an individual, with a pair, or against their teammates. And when we give girls the chance to practice being competitive, it sets them up for success in those really competitive moments during the games or during the races. We want to make sure that they have the chance to practice being competitive because, again, it becomes second nature. It becomes something expected. It becomes something normal. And so one of the ways we can do this is by shouting out competitors. So if there are behaviors that we want to see, we name it. So you put yourself in the right position. If that meant moving her to the side, you were there. I love that, right? Like giving them the feedback about the behaviors you're seeing, and examining examples. So providing evidence of successful female competitors. So who have they seen? Who are the rowers we want them to emulate? Who are the teammates that you saw that day? What did they do? And how can we emulate it? How can the team as a whole get better at doing that behavior that we saw from whomever? And one of the coolest things that I think goes along with all of this is allowing girls to shout out what they see amongst their teammates. So asking the question to the girls, what did you see that you were like, whoa, that was awesome today? And letting them practice using language, talking about behaviors that historically are masculine and taking them back and saying, those are amazing things for us to be. We're strong. Whatever example kind of pops in your head, we can do this too. And it's what we're supposed to do. So we got to let her compete. The next one, and this one I think is something that we are pushing hard against. We have a steep hill to climb here. Girls are socialized to be perfect. What we know about girls is that in general, we don't try things unless we think we're going to be really good at them. There was a study done about job applicants, and what they found was that one job, men would see the job description, meet about 60% of the qualifications, and say, I'm applying for that job. And some even said, and it's underpaying me. And the women met 100% of the qualifications, still questioned whether they were the right fit to apply for the job. And it's because we socialize girls in that way. And so what we need to do is help them in sport focus on the progress and not just the outcomes, because sport is a space that many girls haven't ventured into. And the outcomes that they see and have examples of are really high performance they're immediately going to think, if I can't do that, if I can't be Alex Morgan, if I can't be one of these amazing professional athletes, maybe this isn't for me. And so we have to work backwards against that. And so what we need to do is praise the right things the right way, using praise to highlight the things that matter, specifically acknowledging things that the players have control over so that they start to believe that they have the power to get better and learn new things. Was their form correct? Did they push themselves really hard and you notice that they were pushing really hard in conditioning? I always think about it as will, not skill in this instance. It's easier for us to call out skill based. We want to praise things that are will based and let them know, I see you doing this. It helps give them an example of how to use it again if they're trying to pursue something else. Another way to do that exact same thing is to ask them, how did you do that? So if you see a young person increase their speed, or decrease, I should say, right? Decrease their race time, and ask them, how did you do that? They might say, I don't know, but you can talk through the conversation about what was the path that they took to do that. Not only are they rehashing all of the amazing things they did they stay late in practice? Did they put in extra reps? What did they do? Did they do land workouts? What were they doing? But it allows them to, again, learn the pattern of ways to achieve the next time. It also lets them see the progress. So by saying, how did you do that? You can also name, you couldn't do this at the start of the season. How do you do it? How do you get to the point where you can do it now? And so it calls back to when they couldn't, so they can see the growth in themselves. And then the last piece is around personal records. The comparison game is an evil game when it comes to girls. And so we want to do our best to try to help them compete against themselves, and that there's opportunity for them to see that competition out loud. Oh, I love Myrna dropping gems. I appreciate you. Myrna said, I had one girl that was really good at yoga, so I made her the stretching leader, including creating the stretching routine. Love it. There's a program we work with in Memphis, and they created roles for the girls within sports. So there's a sports reporter, there was a sports photographer. They gave them all these different opportunities. There was a practice ref, so a girl that wanted to become an official. And so they allowed them to engage in the sport in the ways that felt right and safe for them, and said, you still matter here. Sport still wants you. And so, Myrna, that's a great example of how their personal contributions can matter. And then the last piece, and for me, this one really is about safety and making sure that girls feel like sport is a place where they belong, and changing the idea that we want them to be brave and not perfect. So it goes back to socializing girls to be perfect, but we want them to try. We want them to take the risk. We need to make sure that they're starting to let go of that idea of needing to be perfect. And so 3 things we can do, basic things. We can prioritize bravery. I ran a program for girls, a sports sampling program for girls in Philadelphia for many years. And the question we asked at the end of every session while in a circle was, who saw somebody do something brave today? And if they raised their hand, we'd ask them to name it. We work with another program. They changed MVP to MBP, most brave player. And so making sure that you're honing in on the idea that risk taking is actually what we're going for here. Trying is the big thing. One way we can do that is help them figure out how to let mistakes go. 2 things here. I have a colleague, her name's Claire. She coaches basketball at a pretty high level. When she's demonstrating the drills, she intentionally messes up. She'll like dribble it off her foot, or she'll do something where she makes a mistake, and she just goes with it. She says, well, made that mistake. Let's start that over. And she models what you can do, and that mistakes lead to learning. Or she'll say, I wasn't in the right position. Let me switch my feet. And she'll actually be that adult with the power, showing them that that's okay. The next thing you can do is create a mistake ritual. So this is just the idea that you're creating a physical movement that reminds your brain to reset. Some people are familiar with flush it or dust your shoulder off. I was a softball player. And in college, my team, when you were in the field, if you made an error, everybody on the field and everybody in the dugout would actually throw a snap at you, and you would snap one back out into the air. So it was like, oh, we made a mistake. We're still here for you. And all right, we're resetting. And so that's called a mistake ritual. And then the last piece is really just setting the tone. If you're a coach that does the three prior things, if you've created connection, if you've focused on progress and not outcomes, if you've created different ways to compete, then they're able to be brave, not perfect, because you've created a space that's allowed for them to be. And so that's what we're going to think about when we talk about the physical space. Is it's also a big player in this. And when I mean the physical space, you all are on water. You know that there's a huge stigma for girls bathing suits, for girls thinking about swimming, for girls anything with their bodies. And so part of this is also just about how are we welcoming girls into athletic spaces in a way that feels safe for them. Any questions or thoughts or things anyone wants to share before we move into how to do this girl check? Cool. If you think of something, feel free to stop me or pop it in the chat. So within the guide, this is a resource. It's a girl-centric checklist. And it's things to think about when we are either scheduling our programs, when we're figuring out what spaces we're using and how we're designing it. And there's different bullets along the way. We're not going to go through all of them, but there are some things here I just want to call out. There's some biological things that we need to be mindful of. Someone earlier said menstrual cycles, but something that is safe and welcoming for girls is a place where they know where they can get any materials they need for their menstrual cycle. How do they get them? Where are they? Is there a public way that they have to go get them, or is there a way that they can do it quietly and get the materials they need and they know where the bathroom is, etc.? Are there female role models hung up on the walls? Are there people that look like them present and represented in the space? Remember, 33% retention when we have representation. Do girls have opportunities for spaces that are just theirs? This was the big one. We worked with the Chicago Park District, and they recognized that girls weren't using spaces, but they were like, but we're scheduling them. Like the teams have time in the rec centers. But what they found was that girls didn't want to share a court with the boys team. And so they started scheduling they made all girl parks. And so there were opportunities for girls to have spaces that were just theirs, and their inclusion and retention went up. So that's safe and welcoming space and culture. The top one's also, I think, really important to call out. Just what's their journey getting to you? Are they safe arriving? Are they safe leaving? Is everything physically lit? Is it supervised? Are they physically safe getting to you is another big one. The next two kind of go hand in hand. Appropriate equipment and inclusive language. So when we think about sport, often the equipment that girls get is leftover or extras from last year, one of the boys' teams, it's the wrong size. And so making sure that we have the right sized equipment that's theirs and not borrowing from another team. And also that they have access to personal items like sports bras, hair ties, anything that they need to perform effectively in the sport. And trying to figure out ways that we as the program can make sure those spaces are there for them. And then this next one, I think, is also something that we're not great at. We've been trying to be better at it, but this is inclusive language. Sport is built for the patriarchy. And so a lot of the phrases, a lot of the language that we use is gendered. We'll say man up. We talk about you guys. There's a lot of gendered language there. And so what can we say instead that's inclusive? Can we say teammates, friends, y'all? What words can we substitute in there to ensure that we're capturing everybody so that they feel seen? Another study that was done, interestingly, was in an elementary school classroom with two different teachers. And they asked, do any of you guys know the question or know the answer in one of the rooms? In the other room, they said, do any of you know the answer? And the percentage jump in the room where they said you versus you guys of girls that raised their hand was about 30%. And when they asked them why, they said, well, we weren't sure if they were even talking to us. They were elementary school. So just thinking about the language that we utilize when we're talking to our players or athletes. The next one, they hear coaches refer to positive female athlete role models when naming teams or giving examples of performances. Who are the athlete examples that we're talking about? It goes hand in hand with the next one, which is just that coaches are acknowledging important female sporting events, giving other representative examples of ways girls can engage in sport, right? Are our coaches educated in having those types of conversations? Are we full of examples that we can utilize or point them to so that, again, we're doubling down on representation? Any thoughts on equipment or inclusive language? Any questions or things that you're currently doing?
At Row New York, at one of our sites, we have porta potties, and we made a point to set aside one of the porta potties as a girls' porta potty because the girls complained they did not like sharing a porta potty with the boys, and I think that made the space a lot more
Preach.
accessible to them.
Yeah, I have 2 sons. I totally get that. Thanks, Anna. I saw you laugh at my joke. I appreciate you. But yeah, I think that's a great call out. And it's something that if you're going to have them, why not label one? It's not always as hard as it seems. Like when the panel was talking previously, you might have gems and you don't even know it. But thinking about easy wins here that you can utilize. Anyone else have something they would call out or name?
So one of the things that for our toolkit that we have a toolkit where we have, wrenches and, everything that we need for rowing. But in that toolkit is also a pouch that all the girls know that if something happens, they just go grab that couch and go to the bathroom. So
Love
there's hair
it.
ties in there. There's all female things in there. There's deodorant. There's lip gloss. There's a girl kit in the toolbox.
The reason I love that, and the reason I love that so much is that it's just another tool. It's not something different. It's not this extra ad. It's just in the toolkit with all the other tools because that's what sport needs here. And so it normalizes that this is a girl's space. It goes along with everything else we need. That's awesome. There's some great stuff happening in the chat. I try to use both first and last names on any list, such as rooms or erg scores, because men's sports usually use last names and women's only uses first names. I did not know that. That's really interesting. I love that. So that's a language one, right? And how we're modeling language. Chance said I pick up a bunch of hair ties and bring them to every practice. Yep, something simple. Rob said our previous best boat, a quad, was sized more for boys than for girls. We got a great deal on a quad, more appropriately sized for our girls team, and it was like 25 girls got their biggest wish for Christmas. Yeah, you wouldn't believe how differentiated the experience of uniforms and equipment is for young girls than it is for boys. And so something that might seem like a piece of equipment might actually go really, really far. Any other ones that anyone wants to share? One cool one, this program we work with in Philadelphia, they have a wall of fame. And the girls have it's not like a female wall of fame, it's just the wall of fame. And it started off separated, female, male. And when they were thinking about it, they said, no, it's just the athlete hall of fame. And so they merged it into the wall of fame. So just thinking about how we're presenting the space and how we're utilizing it. Another one there is just like what practice times are people getting? Margot just shared that it's true for women rowers of any age. Our masters women were often given the cruddy boat or the men's weight boats. Yeah, it's somewhat of an afterthought, which is hard when you're trying to engage girls in a sport, especially if it's new and they recognize that there's a difference there. And then the last piece in the checklist is really, have we built in time to reflect? Like I said earlier, girls want to reflect on their experience. They want to ask questions and they want to have conversations about it because they want to develop agency. And so what are we doing to create opportunities for this, to build that skill? Do they have the chance to reflect on their own experiences in formal and informal ways? Do they have the chance to provide feedback to their coaches about experiences? Girls see their coaches reflect on bias about girls and actively work to change it. This one's especially powerful with male coaches. It's similar with the opposite way. There's a bunch of research on the power of having a co-ed coaching team for boys and having the female be the head coach. and the impact that that has on social dynamics in their future relationships is really highly attached. And then girls see their coaches intervene when they hear comments or see actions to minimize girls' ability to participate in sports. So again, what does the allyship look like there? Are they correcting other coaches? Are they saying, oh, she can't do that somewhere? And your coach is like, oh, you wait and see. She absolutely can, right? What sort of conversations are they having to make sure that you are represented in the ways that girls should be in spaces? What thoughts do we have there? Because right now it is, oh, I did it. I thought I was going to run long. But Myrna said we have one-on-one once a month, which starts out with the question, what's your why? That's a really great question. What's your why? Why are you here? How do we feed into that? Love it, Myrna. Because we're going to reflect for a second. I want you to take a second and think to yourself, what is something that I want to start doing after hearing some of these strategies? What's something I want to start doing? What's something that I want to stop doing? And what's something I want to do more of? So what's something I want to start doing, stop doing, or something I want to do more of? And we'll start our final conversation with that. So if anyone feels brave enough to share, would love to hear what you're thinking. And you don't have to answer all three. If there's one that stands out to you, would love to hear. And you can type it in the chat or come off, whatever you prefer. There's no forced fun. So if no one has anything, I won't sit here and be awkward in silence with you, but I'll give it another 20 seconds or so in case someone's typing something out. All right, cool. I want to give you the chance to get that QR code. Oh, thank you, friends in the chat. Appreciate you. So we have the toolbox idea. That's wonderful. I would love to start doing that too. More roles in sports for kids. Yeah, so just giving some extra options for how they fit. Being more intentional around the language. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, y'all. Oh, hey, Jenny. Trying to use these principles, focusing on bravery. Yep. And yes. Yes, even with little ones. Absolutely. So just to close out, this same QR code will take you to our resources pages again, so you can get that along with our Nothing Heals Like Sport playbook, which talks a bit more about our brain and our work with healing-centered sport. And then if you ever want to dig into this stuff deeper, please feel free to email me and follow us on all platforms at chjs.org. That's all I got. Oh, now there's great. See, now the chat's blowing up. I should
Yeah,
have waited another
exactly.
10 seconds.
Killian, it's like I'm
I'm like,
seeing
oh no.
mummies, and it's I totally agree. I thought the 30% more girls participating with the inclusive language, that's like kind of mind blowing to me, as someone
Mhm.
who has said, guys like for my whole life kind of thing. And so, but hearing that is like, wow, um, that really struck me.
Yeah, I think, and a part of that, just to name it, is give yourself grace on that. Language patterns are super hard to break. So one of the easiest ways that we've found at CHJS to do it is pick a word that you're wanting to use as your substitute word and have a buddy that you're learning with. So someone that's like that taps you on the shoulder when you slip. And so you have a physical reminder of like, whoop, just said guys, I wanted to say y'all. Like, I'm not from the South, I say y'all because it was an easy substitute for me. And all my friends and family make fun of me, but it works. So just basically thinking about how to help yourself and give yourself some grace. Yeah, folks is another great one. Oh my gosh, there's so many amazing things coming in the chat. 75% of high school coaches, head coaches are men. Yeah, definitely, Kathleen, keep doing it, especially if you can get in front of boys teams. it's really, the research is fascinating around that work. Tamara, I want to make sure I get it right. We also offer unisex uniform options, even for the ladies. Yes. Some girls don't want to wear a tighter short or a spandex. They want to wear sweats. That's great call out. Our team, on our team, if a coach accidentally misgenders a non-binary athlete, the coach has to do an exercise punishment chosen by the athlete. Unbelievable. I kind of love it. Not for corporal punishment, but I do kind of love the reverse power dynamic there. That's pretty epic. That's awesome, Rob. And then just like one last thing I just want to name, we go out and we do this work a lot. And when we started the work, we would send majorly female identifying trainers. And what we realized was actually some of the most powerful shifts in attitudes and behaviors was when our male colleagues came out and would talk about this and why it was so important. And so in just thinking about a lot of times men, they don't always see themselves as much in this work. And actually, I just want to say that actually some ways it's the opposite. That seeing the models and the role modeling from y'all is really, really powerful. So again, I just want to thank you all for having me. I know this was the last one of the day, so I appreciate you and your energy. I'm going to kick it back over to Will. But again, if anything comes up, please feel free to reach out.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jillian. What a great way to end a great day. Really appreciate your time. And just how like this was such a very clear way for us to think about tangible steps that we can take at our programs. So it's always it was really great to hear. So yeah, appreciate the time. Um, we are going to get started to close out today. Before we did that, though, I did want to do just a brief recap. So we started today with Kwabena, Nixon, really powerful way to kick us off. We then moved into the panel on starting programs, kind of getting things off the ground. We then heard about expanding access, building a pipeline for adaptive rowing, and then just the session we finished about girls in sport. Um, when we were putting this summit together, we really wanted a broad range of folks that we are looking to serve and do sessions on how we do this better. I do want to open it up for just a couple minutes to anyone who had any specific takeaways on any of the sessions. Would love to just get some live feedback from you all. If there was anything that was especially powerful or interesting or valuable that you're taking away, would love to hear it.
Oh, I'll jump in. I thought the first one this morning was amazingly powerful. And I think a major part of that was kind of the quote, the audience participation, both in the chat and talking, live. And I think in sessions where we all contribute and participate, I think it's all the more kind of meaningful and I think helpful.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Michael.
And I'll just add that I think it was such a wonderful broad range of topics, but they all were all unique, but they all flowed down into the work we're all trying to do. So I think that was well done because it wasn't all the same. It was really, really unique. So I can't imagine how hard it is to organize that process. So I thought it was really well done. And I agree about the participation and hearing people's problems and solutions has been very helpful.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And we're going to see you tomorrow. Cool. Anyone else? Yeah, Tamara.
Sorry, I have been on the move, solo coach in a college problem. But just from being in the coaching realm and talking with other coaches before coming into this, some of them are like, oh, yeah, I know about that. I'll just watch it later whenever they release the videos. And even though like I've had a lot going on today, I'm still here and I'm still participating. And I think people can take so much more from it when they're present. And when they actually see this live versus like half attention at a later time when they're doing other things. So not necessarily what we're taking away from it, but just giving props to those that showed up today. Because it lets you guys know at you all at US Rowing know that what you're doing is important and that you guys need to keep it up.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much. Willard.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce, the theme that I got through all the presentations today about meeting our athletes where they are. It's more about bringing our sport to the athlete than bringing our athletes to our sport. Um, Community outreach, go out into the communities and, bring our sport to the communities. It's you break a lot of walls down that way. But thank you for great presentations today.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Willard. Um, Anyone else? All right. Well, we are going to conclude our day one of Summit. Tomorrow, I would love to see each and every one of you back here. We have an amazing day two planned for you all, and can't wait to continue the journey and continue to keep the learning happening. So, thank you all. This was 4 hours of your time of your day, and I just really appreciate that you spent it with us, and hope that there were nuggets that you're able to take back to your own programs as we go from here. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.